The annual Hawthorne family reunion was in full swing at my aunt's sprawling estate in the Hamptons. White tents dotted the manicured lawn, champagne flowed freely, and relatives I hadn't seen in years mingled under the July sun. I stood near the gazebo, nursing a glass of lemonade and watching my cousin's children chase each other through the garden. Well, if it isn't the starving artist herself. I didn't need to turn around to recognize that voice. Marcus, my older brother by 3 years and my polar opposite in every way that mattered to our family. "Hello, Marcus," I said, keeping my tone neutral as I faced him. He looked like success incarnate. Custom-tailored navy suit, Italian leather shoes, that Swiss watch he never stopped talking about gleaming on his wrist. "Still painting for pennies, Sophia?" He chuckled, that condescending sound I'd heard throughout my childhood. What was it last time, selling watercolors at the farmer's market? Or was it face painting at kids' parties? A small crowd had gathered, the way they always did when Marcus held court. Our cousins, a few aunts and uncles, some family friends. They loved his success stories, the investment firm he built, the sports cars, the penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park. "I'm doing fine, thanks for asking," I replied, adjusting the simple sundress I'd worn. Nothing designer, nothing flashy. Just comfortable. "Fine?" Marcus laughed louder, gesturing with his champagne flute. "Come on, Soph. You're 35 years old, living in that same cramped studio in Brooklyn, probably still eating ramen noodles for dinner. When are you going to give up this whole artist fantasy and get a real job?" Our mother appeared at his elbow, elegant in cream linen. "Marcus, be nice to your sister. Not everyone can be as successful as you." The backhanded defense stung more than Marcus's mockery. It always had. "That's what I keep telling her," Marcus continued, warming to his theme. "I even offered to get her an entry-level position at my firm. She could work her way up, make some actual money, but no, she's too proud to accept help from her big brother." "It wasn't pride," I said quietly. "I'm happy doing what I do." "Happy?" he snorted. "Happy doesn't pay rent, Sophia. Happy doesn't buy health insurance or put food on the table. Look at cousin Janet over there. She gave up that poetry nonsense and now she's a successful real estate agent. That's what adults do. They grow up." The crowd murmured agreement. I saw the familiar looks, pity mixed with superiority. Poor Sophia, chasing impossible dreams while the real adults made something of themselves. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost ignored it, but the caller ID showed Alina, my assistant. She knew not to call during family events unless it was urgent. "Excuse me," I said, stepping away from the group. "I need to take this." "Of course she does," Marcus Stage whispered, probably her landlord wondering where the rent is. I walked toward the rose garden before answering. "Elena, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," she said, her voice breathless with excitement. "But the Whitmore Museum needs final confirmation on your donation. They want to announce it at tomorrow's gala, and the press release is ready to go. I just need your approval on the exact amount." I glanced back at the party. Marcus was still holding court, gesturing animatedly, probably telling the story of his latest acquisition. "The full amount we discussed," I said. 3.2 million. "Confirmed." "Oh, and Sophia, the Times wants to do a feature on your anonymous donations over the years. I know you prefer to keep things quiet, but they're saying it's a story about hidden philanthropists in the art world. Might be worth considering." "We'll discuss it Monday. Thanks, Elena." I ended the call and took a deep breath. The roses smelled sweet in the afternoon heat, reminding me of the botanical series that had started everything. 5 years ago, those paintings of dying roses had sold for amounts that still made me dizzy. But it was the Garden of Memory collection that had truly changed my life. 24 paintings exploring grief and renewal, inspired by our grandmother's death. Marcus had mocked those paintings too. "Who wants to look at depressing flowers all day?" he'd said when I'd shown him the first piece. Apparently, quite a few people. The collection had sold for 8 figures to private collectors around the world. Since then, I've been quietly building my fortune, painting under a pseudonym, keeping my success private. It had started as self-protection. I didn't want my family's opinions coloring my work. But over time, I'd grown to love the anonymity. It let me live simply, focus on the art, and give back without fanfare. I walked back to the party, where Marcus was now comparing vacation homes with our cousin Bradley. "There's our struggling artist," he announced as I approached. Important call? Was it a commission for a portrait of someone's dog? The group laughed. I smiled. Actually, it was about a museum donation. Oh, how sweet, Aunt Patricia cooed. Are you donating one of your paintings to a charity auction? Every little bit helps, dear. Something like that, I said, finding myself enjoying this more than I'd expected. Years of keeping quiet had built up, and suddenly I was tired of it. Marcus wasn't done. You know, Soph, I donated $50,000 to the Met last year. Got my name on a nice little plaque and everything. It's important to give back when you're successful. He paused, pretending to reconsider. Though I suppose everyone gives what they can. What's the going rate for sidewalk portraits these days? $20? Marcus, our mother chided weakly. What? I'm trying to be supportive. Tell you what, Sophia. I'll commission a painting from you. Help you out a little. What would you charge for a nice landscape for my office? Few $100s? I looked at him, really looked at him. My brother, who measured everything in dollars and status. Who'd never understood why I'd rather spend hours lost in color and light than in boardrooms and spreadsheets. Who'd been mocking my choices since I picked up my first paintbrush at age 7. I don't really do commissions anymore, I said. Too good for your own family now. He shook his head. This is what I'm talking about. No business sense. You're an artist, Sophia. You should be grateful for any paying work. My phone rang again. Elena. I frowned. She never called twice unless it was critical. I'm sorry, I said, not sorry at all. I need to take this. Unbelievable. Marcus muttered. This is why you'll never be successful. No sense of priorities. I answered as I walked away. Elena. I'm so sorry to call again, but there's been a development. The museum board wants to know if you consider increasing the donation to $4 million. They have a matching donor who's willing to go up to $4 million if you do. It would make this the largest private donation in the museum's history. I stopped walking. $8 million total for the new contemporary wing. It would be magnificent. Also, Elena continued, Claire from the studio called. The Rothschild collection wants to acquire Metamorphosis IV. They're offering $2.8 million. My hand tightened on the phone. Metamorphosis IV was one of my favorites. A massive abstract piece that had taken 6 months to complete. But the Rothschilds had one of the best private collections in the world. My work would be in good company. Tell the museum yes to $4 million and accept the Rothschild offer, but I want visitation rights written into the contract. Of course. Oh, and Sophia, your accountant wanted me to remind you about the foundation meeting next week. You're reviewing grant applications for emerging artists. The fund is up to $12 million now. $12 million. I remembered being a struggling artist myself, eating cereal for dinner, rationing canvas and paint. The foundation was my way of making sure other artists didn't have to choose between their art and their next meal. Thanks, Elena. No more calls today unless something's actually on fire. Understood. Enjoy your family reunion. I almost laughed at that. When I returned to the group, Marcus was in the middle of another story about his business prowess. So I told them, take the offer or leave it. In this economy, you have to be ruthless. Everything okay? Mom asked, noting my expression. Fine, I said. Just some museum business. Marcus perked up. Museum business? Don't tell me you're still trying to get your little paintings into galleries. Sophia, when are you going to accept that not everyone can make it as an artist? There's no shame in having a regular job. She's always been stubborn. Uncle Robert chimed in. Remember when she turned down that scholarship to business school? Could have had a real career. I have a real career, I said quietly. Sure you do, Marcus said, his voice dripping condescension. Tell me, what's your annual income from this real career? Because last I heard, you were still living in that rat-infested studio, probably surviving on generic groceries and the kindness of strangers. The group tittered uncomfortably. Some looked away, embarrassed by his cruelty. Others watched with the fascination of people viewing a car wreck. You want to know about my career? I heard myself saying, fine, let's talk about it. Oh, this should be good, Marcus said, settling back with his champagne. Please enlighten us about the glamorous life of a struggling artist. I'm not struggling, I said simply. I haven't been for years. Right, that's why you show up to these things in clothes from Target. I like Target, I said. I also like living quietly, Not everyone needs to broadcast their success, Marcus. He laughed. Success? What success? Selling a painting here and there to tourists. I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo. See this painting? It sold last month for $1.2 million. The laughter died. Marcus leaned forward, squinting at the screen. That's one of your weird flower things. It's from my Solitude series. The buyer was a collector from Hong Kong. He owns 6 of my pieces now. That's impossible, Marcus sputtered. You live in a studio apartment. You shop at thrift stores. I live in a studio by choice. It has the best light for painting. As for the thrift stores, I like the hunt. Found a genuine Balenciaga jacket for $12 last month. But, Aunt Patricia looked confused. If you're selling paintings for millions, why don't you live like it? Because I don't paint for the money. I never have. The money is just a byproduct of doing what I love. Marcus recovered quickly. One lucky sale doesn't make a career. Any hack can fool a rich collector once. It wasn't one sale, I said calmly. Last year alone, I sold 43 original pieces. My lowest sale was $90,000. My highest was $3.7 million. You're lying. His face had gone red. This is pathetic, Sophia. Making up stories to impress people. I don't need to impress anyone. But since you brought up donations earlier, yes, I was confirming a museum donation. $4 million to the Whitmore Museum for their new contemporary wing. Dead silence. Someone dropped a fork on a plate, the clatter absurdly loud. $4 million? Mom whispered. They're naming it the Hawthorne Wing, I added. I thought Grandma would have liked that. She always loved the Whitmore. But how? Marcus's voice cracked. I paint under the name Southeast Thorn, I said. Have been for 5 years now. Turns out people really like my weird flower things and depressing abstracts. Recognition dawned on several faces. Southeast Thorn was not a household name, but in certain circles, collectors, museum curators, art investors, it was gold. You're Southeast Thorn. Cousin Janet gasped. I tried to buy one of your paintings last year. The gallery said there was a 2-year waiting list. 3 years now, I corrected. My studio manager handles all that. I just paint. Marcus stood abruptly, his champagne sloshing. This is ridiculous. If you're so successful, why the act? Why pretend to be poor? I never pretended to be poor. You all just assumed. I said I was fine, that I was happy. You're the ones who equated that with failure. But you could have told us. Why? So you could do what you're doing now? Make it about money instead of art? I've listened to you mock my work for 20 years, Marcus. You called my paintings worthless, my dreams stupid, my life a failure. Why would I share my success with someone who only respects bank balances? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. For once, my brother had no words. The foundation I run, I continued, gives grants to emerging artists. We've funded over 200 artists in the last 3 years. Some of them come from backgrounds like ours. Families who think art is a waste of time unless it makes you rich. I wanted them to know someone believes in their work, regardless of its commercial value. How much? Uncle Robert asked faintly. How much is the foundation worth? 12 million and growing. We add to it every year. Every year. Mom looked dazed. Sophia, what do you actually make? I sighed. This was why I'd kept it quiet. Last year, after taxes and donations, about 18 million. Marcus sat down hard on a garden chair. His perfect suit was wrinkled now, his composed facade cracked. 18 million, he repeated. In 1 year. It was a good year, I admitted. The retrospective at the Venice Biennale helped, and the piece that sold to the National Gallery. The National Gallery bought your work. Aunt Patricia's voice rose to a squeak. 2 pieces, actually. They're part of the permanent collection now. I looked around at their faces, shocked, disbelieving, some calculating, others ashamed. These people who'd pitied me, who'd whispered about poor Sophia and her failed dreams. You know what the funny thing is? I said, none of this. The money, the recognition, the success you all respect so much. None of it matters as much as the moment I finish a painting I'm proud of. That feeling when the last brushstroke completes something I've been seeing in my mind for months. That's the real success. Everything else is just noise. Marcus found his voice again. You let me mock you. For years, you let me think you were a failure. I let you show me who you are, I corrected. Someone who only values others based on their net worth. Do you know why I never took that job at your firm? Because I saw how it changed you. You used to love music, remember? Play guitar in college. When's the last time you picked it up? He flinched as if I'd slapped him. Success isn't just about money, Marcus. It's about being able to look in the mirror and like who you see. It's about going to bed excited for tomorrow, because you get to do what you love again. Can you say that about your life? The party had gone completely silent. Even the children had stopped playing, sensing the adult tension. Elena called one more time. I almost didn't answer, but she knew the rules. What is it? I said, not bothering to walk away this time. The Times. They're not taking no for an answer. They want to do a profile on you for the Sunday magazine. Cover story. They know about the donations, the foundation, everything. They're calling you the invisible philanthropist. I considered it. 5 years of anonymity had been peaceful, but maybe it was time. Set up the interview, I said. But I want approval on the final piece. Already negotiated that. Also, the studio in Paris called. They're ready whenever you are for the residency. Thanks, Elena. We'll talk Monday. I hung up to find everyone staring at me. Paris? Mom said weakly. 6-month residency at the Cité des Arts. I've been putting it off, but I think it's time. 6 months in Paris, Marcus muttered. Of course you're going to Paris. I looked at my brother, really looked at him. Beneath the anger and shock, I saw something else. Loss, regret. Maybe even a flicker of the boy who used to play guitar for me while I painted. You could come visit, I offered. Bring your guitar. He blinked rapidly, looking away. I sold it years ago. I know, I said softly. I bought it. It's in my studio. I keep thinking someday you'll want it back. That broke something in him. His shoulders sagged, the fight going out of him like air from a punctured balloon. I don't even remember how to play, he admitted. That's the thing about art, I said. It waits for you. It's always there when you're ready to come back. The reunion continued, but the dynamic had shifted completely. People approach me differently now, some with newfound respect, others with barely disguised greed, a few with what might have been genuine interest in my work. I left early, tired of the questions and calculations. As I walked to my beat-up Honda Civic, another thing that had apparently convinced them of my poverty. Marcus caught up with me. Sophia, wait. I turned. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. I'm sorry, he said, for all of it. The mockery, the condescension. I think I was jealous. Of what? You're the successful one, remember? He laughed bitterly. Successful? I work 80-hour weeks doing something I hate, to buy things I don't need, to impress people I don't like. You're right, I haven't played music in years. I don't even listen to it anymore. Too busy with spreadsheets and conference calls. It's not too late, I said. Isn't it? I'm 38 years old. I've built my entire life around something that makes me miserable. I was 30 when I sold my first real painting, 32 when I could finally support myself with art. It's never too late to choose happiness, Marcus. He stood there in his expensive suit, looking lost. Would you really let me visit in Paris? Bring the guitar, I said. We'll see what you remember. I drove away, leaving him standing in the driveway of our aunt's mansion. In my rearview mirror, I saw him pull out his phone, probably already looking up guitars online. Back in my studio apartment, and yes, it really was just a studio, though a nice one with perfect north light, I stood before my latest work in progress. A massive canvas dominated one wall, awash in blues and grays with hints of gold breaking through like dawn after a storm. The foundation reviews could wait. The Times interview could wait. Even Paris could wait. Right now, there was just me, the canvas, and the familiar weight of a brush in my hand. Everything else, the money, the fame, the family drama, faded away. This was success. This moment, this feeling, this perfect silence broken only by the whisper of brush on canvas. My phone buzzed with texts. Marcus asking about guitars. Mom apologizing for years of subtle dismissal. Cousins suddenly interested in my art. I turned the phone off and picked up my palette. Tomorrow, I'd deal with the complications that came with revealed success. Tonight, I had a painting to finish. And despite everything, or maybe because of it, I smiled. Marcus had been right about one thing. I was still painting for pennies. It just turned out that each penny was worth a lot more than he'd thought.
I knew something was wrong the moment I saw Neil's phone light up on the nightstand. 3 rapid texts, all from Lily. At 2:17 a.m., I lay perfectly still, listening to Neil's steady breathing beside me, fighting the urge to reach over and read whatever my best friend needed to tell my fiancé in the middle of the night. Instead, I stared at the ceiling, counting the shadows until morning came. "You're up early," Neil mumbled, finding me at the kitchen counter, already on my second cup of coffee. His hair was tousled in that way I used to find endearing. Now it just reminded me he hadn't showered after Lily's party last night. "Couldn't sleep." I watched him over the rim of my mug. "How'd you like the party?" He shrugged, not meeting my eyes as he reached for the coffee pot. "It was fine. Lily always throws good parties. You two seemed to be having an intense conversation by the pool." I kept my voice casual, hating how I suddenly sounded like every suspicious girlfriend I'd ever rolled my eyes at. Neil's hand paused mid-pour. Just for a second. "Just work stuff. She wanted advice about the Harrington account." "The Harrington account." "Right. Because my marketing executive fiancé would naturally have insights for my event planner best friend about her clients." I nodded and smiled, feeling something cold and heavy settle in my stomach. "I'm heading to the gym," he said, abandoning his half-poured coffee. "Promised Derek I'd meet him for racquetball." "On Sunday morning?" I asked, but he was already halfway to the bedroom. "Best time to get a court," he called back. 20 minutes later, I watched from our apartment window as Neil pulled out of the parking garage. He turned left. The gym was right. I called Sophia. "He's lying to me," I said when she picked up. "Camilla, it's not even 8. What are we talking about?" Sophia's voice was thick with sleep. "Neil, he said he's going to the gym with Derek, but he drove in the opposite direction. And Lily was texting him at 2 in the morning. Maybe Derek's picking him up somewhere else," Sophia yawned. "And Lily texts everyone at weird hours. You know how she gets when she's been drinking." I paced our living room, past the engagement photos and the save-the-date samples we still needed to choose between. Something feels off. They were whispering together all night, and when I walked up, they stopped talking immediately. "You sound paranoid," Sophia said gently. "Neil adores you, and Lily's been your best friend since college. You're just stressed about the wedding." I wanted to believe her. 6 years together, 2 years planning this wedding. Neil was the guy who brought me soup when I was sick and remembered my mother's birthday when I forgot. Lily was the friend who held my hair back during food poisoning and stayed up all night helping me finish presentations. "You're right," I said finally. "I'm being crazy." But after hanging up, I found myself opening Instagram, scrolling back through photos from last night's party. There, a candid shot someone had posted of the backyard. In the background, Neil and Lily stood close together, his hand on the small of her back, her head tilted up toward him, laughing at something he'd said. His hand was never on my back like that anymore. I zoomed in until the image pixelated, searching for clues in their expressions. Was I imagining the intimacy there? The way her body angled toward his? The way his fingers splayed possessively against the fabric of her dress? My phone buzzed with a text from Neil. "Grabbing breakfast with Derek after, back around noon." I stared at the message, remembering how Neil had claimed just last weekend that he couldn't stand breakfast places because they were always too crowded. I typed back, "Have fun. Love you." He responded with a thumbs-up emoji. Not "love you too." Not even "thanks." A thumbs up. I set my phone down and walked to our closet, pushing past Neil's suits until I found the shirt he'd worn last night, tossed in the hamper. I lifted it to my face, inhaling deeply. Beneath the familiar scent of his cologne was something else, a floral perfume I recognized instantly. Lily wore it every day, had for years. "It's nothing," I whispered to myself. They hugged goodbye. That's all. But as I stood there, clutching his shirt, I remembered other things. How Neil had started password protecting his phone 3 months ago. How Lily had been cancelling our weekly coffee dates. How they both seemed to find reasons to check their phones whenever we were all together. My engagement ring caught the morning light, sending prisms dancing across the wall. 6 years. My best friend since college. I'd trusted them both with everything. My phone buzzed again. Lily this time. Brunch tomorrow. Need to talk about your bachelorette party. I stared at her message, at the excessive exclamation point, and felt something inside me crack. Whatever was happening, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The whisper of doubt had become a scream. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Neil's hand on Lily's back, felt the weight of all the small betrayals I'd been ignoring. By morning, I was hollow-eyed and electric with dread. "You look terrible," Neil said, buttoning his shirt for work. "Did you sleep at all?" "Not really." I watched him in the mirror, searching his face for... what? Guilt? Some crack in his perfect mask? "I was thinking about meeting Lily for lunch today." His fingers fumbled on a button. "Oh, I thought you had that client presentation." "Rescheduled," I lied, watching his reflection carefully. "Why? Is there some reason I shouldn't see Lily?" Neil turned, his expression smoothing into something carefully neutral. "Of course not. Tell her I said hi." I nodded, smiling as though everything was normal. As though I hadn't spent the night cataloguing every suspicious moment from the past few months. As though I wasn't planning to skip my presentation to follow him during his lunch meeting today. After Neil left, I called my office and actually did reschedule my presentation, claiming food poisoning. Then I changed into jeans and a baseball cap, my pathetic attempt at a disguise, and drove to Neil's office building. I felt ridiculous sitting in my car in the parking garage, like I'd stumbled into someone else's life. This wasn't me. I didn't spy on people I loved. I didn't skip work to sit in a hot car, watching the elevator bank through tinted windows. At 12:15, Neil emerged, checking his watch before walking briskly toward the street. I waited until he was half a block away, before following on foot, keeping my distance, as he turned corners and waited at crosswalks. He led me to Emilio's, an intimate Italian place we'd discovered together last year. My stomach clenched as he approached a table on the patio where Lily already sat waiting, sunglasses perched on her head, looking effortlessly beautiful as always. I ducked behind a newspaper stand, watching as Neil bent to kiss her cheek. No, not her cheek. Her mouth. A brief, casual kiss, the kind exchanged between people who've kissed 100 times before. The world tilted sideways. I gripped the metal stand to keep from falling, my knuckles white, my breath coming in short, painful gasps. A passing stranger asked if I was okay. I nodded mechanically, unable to form words. They were laughing now, heads bent close together over the menu. Neil's hand covered hers on the table, not hidden, not secretive. They weren't even trying to be discreet. How many people had seen them like this? How long had I been the only one who didn't know? I couldn't watch anymore. Couldn't stand there while my life unraveled in public. I turned and walked blindly back toward my car, tears blurring my vision. Back home, I paced our apartment, touching our shared possessions, photo frames, coffee mugs, the throw blanket we'd bought together in Mexico. Everything suddenly felt like evidence of an elaborate lie. When my phone buzzed with a text from Lily, "Can't wait for brunch tomorrow." XO. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to her apartment. She answered the door in yoga pants and one of Neil's old college t-shirts. I recognized it immediately. I'd slept in it myself countless times. "Camilla." Her smile faltered when she saw my face. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "Can I come in?" My voice sounded strange, distant. "Of course." She stepped back, concern etched across her features. Such perfect, practiced concern. I walked into her apartment, the place where we'd had countless wine nights, where we'd cried over breakups and celebrated promotions, where she'd helped me plan my engagement party to the man she was now sleeping with. "I saw you," I said simply, turning to face her. "Today, at Emilio's. The colour drained from Lily's face. For a moment she looked genuinely stricken. Then her expression shifted, hardened into something I'd never seen before. "I was going to tell you," she said quietly. "When?" My voice cracked. "After the wedding, on my anniversary. When exactly were you planning to mention you're fucking my fiancé?" She flinched at my words but didn't deny them. "It's not what you think, Camilla. It's not just some fling. What is it then?" I was shaking now, rage and grief colliding inside me like storm fronts. "We're in love." She said it simply, as if those 3 words could possibly justify everything. I laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "Love? You betrayed me in the worst possible way, and you want to dress it up as love?" "It just happened," Lily said, tears welling in her eyes. "We tried to fight it. We never wanted to hurt you." "How long?" I demanded. She looked away. 8 months. 8 months. While I'd been tasting wedding cakes and addressing Save the Dates. While she'd been helping me choose my wedding dress. "Does everyone know?" My voice was barely audible now. "Am I the only one who didn't see it?" "No one knows," she insisted. "We've been careful." Not careful enough to avoid kissing in public. Not careful enough to keep me from discovering their betrayal. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know that doesn't help, but I am." I looked at her. Really looked at her. Searching for any trace of the friend I'd trusted with everything. All I saw was a stranger wearing my best friend's face. "You're right," I said finally. "It doesn't help." I turned to leave, but paused at the door. "You know what the worst part is? I would have done anything for you, both of you." As I walked to my car, a strange calm settled over me. The shock and pain were still there, but beneath them, something else was taking root. A cold, clear purpose. They had destroyed my life without a second thought. Now I would return the favor. I spent 3 days in a hotel room, ignoring calls from both Neil and Lily. My phone buzzed constantly with their messages. First confused, then concerned, finally desperate. I read each one with detached fascination, like studying specimens under glass. The evolution of liars caught in their own web. On the 4th day, I went home. Our apartment felt both familiar and foreign, like revisiting a childhood home now occupied by strangers. Neil wasn't there, at work, or maybe with her. I didn't care. I needed clothes, my laptop, and space to think. I was packing a larger suitcase when the door opened. "Camilla." Neil stood in the doorway, his face haggard. "Thank God, I've been worried sick." "Have you?" I continued folding clothes, not looking at him. "Where have you been?" "I called hospitals. I filed a missing persons report." "How thoughtful." I placed another sweater in my suitcase. "Did you check Lily's place?" "Oh, wait, you probably did. Multiple times." He went very still. "What are you talking about?" I finally looked up, meeting his eyes. "I saw you. At Emilio's. Kissing her." Neil's face crumpled, not with shame or remorse, but with relief. "So you know." "Yes, I know. 8 months, right? That's what Lily said." He sat heavily on the edge of the bed. "We were going to tell you after—" "After what?" I snapped. "After the wedding. Were you planning to object dramatically at the ceremony, or just keep fucking my best friend behind my back indefinitely?" "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," he said, running his hands through his hair. "We never meant to hurt you. Yet here we are." I zipped my suitcase with a decisive snap. "I'm staying with Sophia for a while. I'll come get the rest of my things later." "Camilla, please." He reached for my arm. "Can we talk about this? We owe each other that much." I jerked away from his touch. "We don't owe each other anything anymore. You made sure of that." As I wheeled my suitcase toward the door, Neil called after me. "I still care about you." "We both do." I paused, not turning around. "Tell Lily she can keep the t-shirt. It looks better on her anyway." I spent the next week on Sophia's couch, cycling through grief, rage, and humiliation. I called in sick to work, ignored more messages from Neil and Lily, and drank too much wine, while Sophia patiently listened to me dissect every moment of betrayal I could remember. "You need to eat something besides ice cream," Sophia said, setting a plate of actual food in front of me. "And maybe shower. No offense, but you're starting to ripen." I glared at her but took the plate. I'm allowed to wallow. My fiancé and best friend destroyed my life. "They're garbage people," Sophia agreed, "but you can't let them destroy you too." She was right, of course, but knowing that didn't make it easier to function. Every morning I woke up with the same hollow ache, the same questions spinning through my mind. How had I missed the signs? Who else knew? How long would I have remained oblivious if I hadn't seen Neil's phone that night? On day 9 of my self-imposed exile, Emma called. "I heard what happened," she said when I answered. "I'm so sorry, Camila." Emma had been friends with both Lily and me since college. The three of us had been inseparable once. "How did you find out?" I asked, suddenly alert. "Did Lily tell you?" "No." Emma hesitated. "Neil did. He called asking if I knew where you were staying." "And what did you tell him?" "Nothing. I wouldn't do that to you." She paused. "But Camilla, there's something you should know. About Lily." My heart rate quickened. "What?" "She's been seeing someone else too. Someone besides Neil." I sat up straight. "What? Who?" "Terrence, her boss." The information hit me like a physical blow. Terrence was married with 2 kids. He was also directly responsible for Lily's recent promotion. "How do you know this?" I demanded. "I saw them together at the Westbrook last month, in one of those private dining rooms." Emma's voice lowered. They definitely weren't discussing work events. My mind raced. If Lily was sleeping with Terrence too, did Neil know? Was their love just another one of Lily's manipulations? "Thank you for telling me," I said, a plan already forming. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and created a new document. At the top, I typed, "Operation Karma." "What are you doing?" Sophia asked, peering over my shoulder. "Planning." I began making a list of everything I knew about Lily. Her schedule, her passwords, she'd used the same one for everything since college, her secrets and insecurities. "Planning what exactly?" I looked up at Sophia, feeling truly focused for the first time in days. They took everything from me, my relationship, my best friend, my trust, my future. They don't get to just walk away from that. "Camilla," Sophia's voice held a warning. "I'm not going to hurt anyone," I assured her. "I'm just going to make sure they experience consequences. Real ones." "And how exactly do you plan to do that?" I thought about Lily's carefully curated image at work, about Neil's family, who still didn't know what he'd done, about Terrence's wife, who deserved to know who she was married to. "By telling the truth," I said simply, "in the right places, at the right times." I turned back to my laptop, adding another item to my list. Terrence's wife's contact information. For the first time since seeing Neil and Lily together, I felt something other than pain. Something that burned brighter, cleaner. Something that would get me out of bed tomorrow morning. Purpose. I started small. A casual email to Lily's entire office about a surprise birthday gathering for Terrence, at his home address, during a time his wife would definitely be there. I signed it from Lily's email, which wasn't difficult. I still knew all her passwords. "This is petty," Sophia said, watching me hit send. "And possibly illegal." "It's just a party invitation," I replied, closing my laptop. Not my fault if it causes an awkward situation. But we both knew that was exactly my intention. I returned to work the next day, ignoring the pitying glances from co-workers who'd clearly heard about my broken engagement. I smiled through meetings, nodded at appropriate moments, and pretended I wasn't constantly checking my phone for updates. Emma called that evening. "Whatever you did, it worked," she said without preamble. "Terrence's wife showed up at the office today. There was a massive scene in the lobby." I felt a rush of vindication. "What happened?" "She confronted him in front of everyone," screaming about how she found hotel receipts. Then she saw Lily and went ballistic. Security had to escort her out. Emma paused. Lily's been crying in the bathroom all afternoon. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt oddly hollow. Did she get fired? No, but she's on thin ice. Terence is claiming it was all a misunderstanding, but HR is involved now. Emma hesitated. Camilla, are you sure about this? Revenge won't undo what happened. I'm not trying to undo anything, I said. I'm just making sure they face consequences. But after hanging up, I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back at me had shadows under her eyes and a hardness to her mouth that hadn't been there before. Was this who I wanted to become? Someone who took pleasure in others' pain? My phone buzzed with a text from Neil. I know what you did. We need to talk. I ignored it, but an hour later, my doorbell rang. I peered through the peephole to see Neil standing in the hallway, looking grim. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. You can't just show up here, I said. You won't answer my calls. He pushed past me into the apartment. What the hell were you thinking, Camilla? Sending that email could cost Lily her job. That's rich coming from you, I snapped. You're worried about her job. What about our relationship, our future? Did you think about that before you started sleeping with her? Neil ran a hand through his hair. What we did was wrong, I know that. But this calculated revenge, this isn't you. You don't know who I am anymore. I crossed my arms. And whose fault is that? Lily's devastated. Her reputation at work is ruined. Good. Neil stared at me like I was a stranger. Do you even hear yourself? You're enjoying her pain. The way you two enjoyed deceiving me. I stepped closer. Tell me, Neil, did you laugh about it together? Poor clueless Camilla, planning her wedding while her fiancé fucks her best friend. It wasn't like that, he said quietly. We hated ourselves for hurting you. Not enough to stop. We stood in tense silence, the ruins of our relationship scattered between us like broken glass. What do you want, Camilla? Neil finally asked. An apology? We've both apologized. Repeatedly. What will it take for you to move on? Move on? I laughed bitterly. It's been 2 weeks since my entire life imploded. You don't get to dictate my timeline for moving on. So you're just going to keep trying to destroy us? Will that make you feel better? I didn't have an answer. Would it make me feel better? The email to Terence's wife had brought momentary satisfaction, but the hollow feeling afterward suggested otherwise. Just leave, I said, suddenly exhausted. Go back to Lily. Console her. Tell her how unreasonable I'm being. After Neil left, I called Sophia, needing a voice of reason. Am I becoming a terrible person? I asked when she picked up. You're becoming a hurt person, she replied. There's a difference. Neil thinks I'm enjoying their pain. Are you? I considered the question honestly. Not exactly, I need them to understand what they did, how it feels to have your world turned upside down. And then what? Sophia asked gently. After they understand, what happens next? I had no answer. The next morning, I woke to 3 missed calls from an unknown number. When it rang again, I answered. Is this Camilla? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. Yes, who's this? Rebecca Burke, Terence's wife. Her voice was steady, controlled. I think we should meet. My heart raced. I'm not sure that's a good idea. I know you sent that email, she said, and I want to thank you. I sat up straight. Thank me? I've suspected Terence was cheating for months. You gave me the proof I needed. She paused. I have information about Lily and Neil that you might want to hear. Things my husband let slip. My plan had been simple. Cause trouble, make them hurt, move on. But Rebecca's call suggested there were deeper currents I hadn't considered. When and where? I asked. As I wrote down the details for our meeting, I felt a shift in my perspective. This wasn't just about petty revenge anymore. There were larger truths waiting to be uncovered. Truths that might change everything. For better or worse, I was going to find them. Rebecca Burke was nothing like I'd imagined. I'd pictured a fragile, devastated woman, a mirror of my own recent brokenness. Instead, the woman who slid into the booth across from me radiated composed fury. Her manicured nails tapped methodically against her coffee cup as she studied me. "You're younger than I expected," she said. "You're calmer than I expected," I replied, a thin smile. 15 years of marriage to Terence taught me to control my reactions. Public meltdowns are a luxury I only allow myself on special occasions. Like confronting her husband at his workplace, I felt a flicker of respect. "You said you had information," I prompted. Rebecca took a deliberate sip of her coffee. "First, I want to understand what you're after. Revenge? Closure? Something else?" I hesitated, unsure how to articulate what drove me. "I want them to face consequences, real ones, not just feeling bad while they continue their relationship." "And then what? Once they've suffered appropriately, what happens next?" It was the same question Sophia had asked. I still didn't have a good answer. "I haven't thought that far ahead," I admitted. Rebecca nodded as if I'd confirmed something. "Here's what I know. Lily and Terence have been involved for nearly a year, but Neil has only been part of the picture for about 5 months. I frowned. That doesn't make sense. Lily told me 8 months. She lied. Rebecca's voice was flat. Terence keeps detailed records of his affairs, hotel receipts, dinner dates, gifts. He thinks I don't know about his private email account. She smiled thinly. Men can be remarkably predictable. My mind raced. If Neil and Lily had only been together 5 months, not 8. "There's more," Rebecca continued. "According to Terence, Lily approached Neil initially because of his connection to Edward George. The name hit me like a physical blow. Edward? From Pinnacle Investments?" Rebecca nodded. "Terence's company has been courting Pinnacle as a client for months. Edward is the decision-maker. Apparently, Lily discovered Neil knew him and saw an opportunity." I sat back, stunned. Edward was an acquaintance of Neil's from business school. They occasionally met for drinks. I'd met him once at a networking event. He'd seemed pleasant but unremarkable. "Are you saying Lily pursued Neil because of a business connection?" "That's what Terence believes." Rebecca shrugged. "Whether Neil knows he's being used is another question." The cafe around us continued its normal rhythm. Baristas calling out orders, customers typing on laptops, while my world tilted on its axis yet again. "Why are you telling me this?" I finally asked. "Because I'm filing for divorce, and I want Terence to lose everything." Her calm facade cracked slightly, revealing the rage beneath. "Including the Pinnacle account, I thought you might want to help." I stared at her. "How? Edward George? You could warn him about what's happening, about how he's being manipulated." The suggestion hung between us, tempting in its simplicity. One conversation with Edward could unravel everything Lily had built. "I'll think about it," I said. Rebecca slid a business card across the table. "My private number. Let me know what you decide." After she left, I sat alone, turning her card over in my fingers. The information she'd shared had shifted something fundamental in my understanding. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about calculation, strategy. Lily hadn't fallen helplessly in love with Neil. She'd targeted him, and I'd been collateral damage. I was still sitting there when Sophia called. "Where are you?" she asked. "I thought we were meeting at my place. Something came up. I'll tell you later." I hesitated. "Sophia, do you think I'm obsessing over this too much?" "Honestly, yes." Her voice softened. "It's been almost 3 weeks, Camilla. You haven't gone a single day without mentioning Neil or Lily, or some new revenge plan." "They destroyed my life," I said, the familiar justification rising automatically. "No, they ended your relationship. There's a difference." Sophia sighed. "You're letting them define you now. Everything you do is in reaction to them." Her words stung because they contained truth. I'd been so focused on making Neil and Lily pay that I'd put my own life on pause. "I met with Terence's wife today," I admitted. "She told me things about Lily, about why she pursued Neil." And did this new information make you feel better? I considered the question. No, it made me feel worse, actually. More manipulated. That's my point. None of this is helping you heal. Sophia paused. I'm worried about you, Camilla. You're becoming someone I don't recognize. The same observation Neil had made. Was I really changing that much? I need to go, I said abruptly. I'll call you later. I drove home in a daze, Rebecca's revelations and Sophia's concerns colliding in my mind. When I arrived at my apartment building, I sat in the parking lot, unable to summon the energy to go inside. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. I'm outside your building. Edward. I froze, scanning the parking lot until I spotted him, a tall figure leaning against a black sedan, watching my car. How did he know where I lived? Why was he here? As I stepped out of my car, Edward straightened and walked toward me, his expression grave. Camilla, he said, I think we have a mutual problem. The certainty I'd felt about my revenge plans suddenly evaporated, replaced by the uncomfortable realization that I was stepping into something much larger and more complicated than I'd imagined. And there was no turning back now. Edward insisted we talk somewhere private, so I reluctantly led him to my apartment. My mind raced with possibilities. Had Rebecca already contacted him? Did he know about Lily's manipulation? Nice place, he said, glancing around my living room. He seemed different from the polished businessman I'd met briefly at Neil's networking event, more intense, less rehearsed. How did you find my address? I asked, remaining standing while he settled, uninvited, onto my couch. Neil mentioned it once. Edward's gaze was direct, unsettling. I have an excellent memory for details. And why exactly are you here? Because you've been causing problems. He leaned forward. The email to Terrence's wife. Very clever. Very disruptive. My pulse quickened. I don't know what you're talking about. Please. Edward smiled thinly. Let's not waste time with denials. I know what Neil and Lily did to you. I know you're retaliating. And I know you recently met with Rebecca Burke. I crossed my arms. Are you spying on me? I'm protecting my interests. He gestured for me to sit. Which is why I'm here. We need to discuss Pinnacle's relationship with Terrence's company. I remained standing. I don't see how that concerns me. It concerns you because you're interfering in business matters you don't understand. His tone hardened. Lily's personal choices are irrelevant to me. What matters is that Terrence's company provides services Pinnacle needs. So you know. I finally sat, processing his words. You know Lily pursued Neil to get to you. Edward's expression revealed nothing. I suspected. Neil mentioned they'd started seeing each other shortly after he introduced us at that charity event. And that didn't bother you? Being manipulated? He shrugged. Business is built on strategic relationships. Lily's methods are her concern. What about Neil? Does he know he's being used? I doubt it. Edward studied me. Neil has always been idealistic. He probably believes it's a genuine romance. The casual cruelty of his assessment hit me like a slap. Neil, the man I'd planned to marry, reduced to a naive pawn in someone else's game. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because your revenge campaign is becoming problematic. The drama with Terrence's wife has created instability at a critical time. Edward leaned forward. I need you to stop. Or what? Or I'll be forced to ensure you stop. His voice remained pleasant, but the threat was unmistakable. I have resources you don't, Camilla. This isn't a fight you can win. I stared at him, anger building. So I'm just supposed to walk away? Let them all get what they want while I get nothing? What exactly do you want? Edward asked. To hurt Neil and Lily? You've already done that. To ruin their relationship. You might succeed, but it won't undo your pain. He paused. Or do you want something more concrete? Like what? Money, a new job, a fresh start somewhere else. He shrugged. Name your price. I laughed incredulously. You're trying to buy me off? I'm offering you a way forward that benefits us both. Edward's expression softened slightly. The path you're on now leads nowhere good, Camilla. Believe me, I know. Something in his tone made me pause. What do you mean? I've been where you are, betrayed, humiliated, obsessed with making someone pay. His eyes held mine. It consumed 3 years of my life, and when I finally succeeded in destroying them, I felt nothing, just empty. I wanted to dismiss his words, but they echoed uncomfortably with Sophia's concerns. Was I becoming consumed by revenge? Was I losing myself? I need to think, I said finally. Edward nodded and stood. Take 24 hours. Then I'll need your decision. He placed a business card on my coffee table. Call me when you're ready to discuss terms. After he left, I sank onto the couch, overwhelmed by conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to call Sophia, to process what had just happened, but another part, a growing, insistent voice, whispered that I was close to something important, something I couldn't walk away from yet. I picked up Edward's card, then reached for Rebecca's. 2 people with their own agendas, both trying to use me for their purposes. Just like Lily had used Neil, just like Neil and Lily had used our friendship and trust. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Haven't heard from you. Everything okay? I stared at her message, guilt mingling with resentment. Even Sophia's concern felt like pressure now. Pressure to be better, to move on, to stop fighting back. Instead of replying, I opened my laptop and searched for Edward George. Articles about Pinnacle Investments appeared, along with a few society page photos. Nothing revealing. I tried another search, Edward George Pl scandal. A headline from 7 years ago caught my eye. Finance executive's suicide follows fraud allegations. I clicked, scanning quickly. The article mentioned Edward, only peripherally. He'd been a colleague of the man who died. But something about it nagged at me. I searched again, digging deeper, following threads until I found what I was looking for. A blog post from 6 years ago, written by the widow of the executive who'd committed suicide. She named Edward specifically, claiming he'd orchestrated her husband's downfall after discovering their affair. The pieces clicked together. This was Edward's story, his betrayal, his revenge, and according to the widow's account, it had destroyed multiple lives, including an innocent man's. Is this what I was becoming? Someone who would sacrifice anyone to satisfy my need for vengeance? My phone rang. Lily's name flashed on the screen. I almost declined the call. Then, driven by a sudden, fierce need to hear what she would say, I answered. Camilla, Lily's voice was raw, desperate. Please don't hang up. There's something you need to know about Edward. He's dangerous. Whatever he's told you. How do you know I've spoken to Edward? I interrupted. A pause. Because he just called Neil. He's setting you up, Camilla. We all are. What do you mean, we all are? I gripped my phone so tightly my fingers ached. Explain, now. Not over the phone. Lily's voice shook. Can you meet us? At Neil's place? Every instinct screamed this was a trap. Why would I do that? Because despite everything, I know you're still the smartest person in this mess. Her voice dropped. And because I have proof. About Edward. About what he's really doing. I should have hung up. Should have called Sophia or Rebecca or even the police. Instead, I heard myself say, I'll be there in 30 minutes. Rain pelted the windshield as I drove to Neil's apartment, my thoughts racing faster than the wipers could clear the glass. What kind of setup was this? What game was Edward playing? And why would Lily warn me if she was part of it? I parked a block away, sitting in my car as rain drummed on the roof. This was madness. I was walking into a room with the 2 people who had betrayed me most intimately, based on a cryptic warning from a woman I no longer trusted. Yet something in Lily's voice had sounded genuinely afraid. I called Sophia. I'm about to do something stupid, I said when she answered. Define stupid. Meeting Neil and Lily at his apartment. Lily says Edward is setting me up somehow. Sophia was silent for a moment. This sounds like a terrible idea. I know, but I need to hear what they have to say. I watched rain streak down my window. If I don't call you in an hour, something's wrong. Camilla, just be ready to help if I need it, please. She sighed. 1 hour, then I'm calling you. If you don't answer, I'm coming over. I ended the call and stepped into the rain, instantly soaked as I walked the block to Neil's building. By the time I reached his door, my clothes clung to my skin and water dripped from my hair onto the hallway carpet. Neil opened the door before I could knock. His eyes widened at my drenched appearance. Jesus, Camilla. He stepped back to let me in. Let me get you a towel. Lily sat perched on the edge of the couch, her face pale, hands clasped tightly in her lap. The sight of her in Neil's apartment, so casually occupying the space that had once been partly mine, sent a fresh wave of pain through me. Here. Neil handed me a towel. One of mine, left behind when I moved out. I dried my face and hair, refusing to sit. You said Edward is setting me up. Explain. Lily and Neil exchanged glances. Edward approached me 6 months ago, Lily began. At a company event. He said he'd heard about my event planning work and wanted to discuss potential opportunities with Pinnacle. So you slept with my fiancé to land a client? The words tasted bitter. No, Lily flinched. That came later. At first, it was just business meetings. Edward introduced me to Terence, suggested I could help with their partnership. Then he mentioned Neil. Edward told you to pursue Neil? I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. Not explicitly. He just kept bringing him up, saying how Neil had connections that could be valuable. Lily looked down. I'd met Neil a few times through you. He was attractive, successful. When I ran into him at that bar opening. You decided to sleep with him. My voice was flat. It wasn't planned. Neil spoke for the first time. It just happened. We were drunk, talking about you actually. How lucky I was. The irony made me laugh. A harsh, broken sound. And then you just kept happening to sleep together for months. We thought it was real, Lily said quietly. What we felt. But now I'm not sure. What does this have to do with Edward setting me up? Neil stood, moving to his desk where he opened his laptop. 2 days ago, Edward asked me to invest in a new Pinnacle fund. Something exclusive, off the books. He turned the screen toward me. I was going to do it until Lily found this. I stepped closer, reading the document displayed. It was a private placement memorandum for something called Phoenix Opportunity Fund, listing Edward as the manager and Terence's company as the primary service provider. The minimum investment was $250,000. I don't understand, I said. It's a fraud, Lily said. The fund doesn't actually exist. Edward's been setting this up for months, using Terence's company as cover. He's targeting wealthy clients with promises of exclusive returns. And what does this have to do with me? Your name is on it. Neil scrolled down to show me. As a compliance officer, your signature is there too. I stared at the document in shock. There it was, my name, a reasonable facsimile of my signature. I never signed this. We know, Lily said. Edward forged it. He's setting you up to take the fall when the fraud is discovered. My mind raced. But why me? I'm not even in finance. Because you've been causing trouble, Neil said. The email to Terence's wife, the questions you've been asking. Edward sees you as a threat. And how convenient that you two are warning me now. I stepped back, suspicion flaring. After everything you've done, why should I believe you're suddenly concerned about my welfare? Because we're all being played, Lily said, her voice breaking. Edward manipulated me into pursuing Neil. He encouraged Terence to start an affair with me. He's been orchestrating all of this. For a fraudulent investment fund. It seemed absurd. Not just that. Neil ran a hand through his hair. Edward's been recording our conversations. About you. About the revenge you've been planning. If you're implicated in his fraud and try to claim innocence, he has evidence that you've been vindictive and unstable. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. My revenge campaign had given Edward the perfect scapegoat, someone with a documented history of emotional instability and retaliatory behavior. We need to go to the police, I said. With what proof? Lily asked. It's our word against his, and with your recent actions. She didn't need to finish. Who would believe me over Edward? A respected financial executive versus a jilted woman who'd already demonstrated a willingness to seek revenge. There's another option, Neil said hesitantly. Edward's hosting a dinner tomorrow night for potential investors in the Phoenix Fund. We could confront him there, with witnesses. Or, I said slowly, an idea forming, we could give him exactly what he wants. They both looked at me questioningly. He wants me to stop causing trouble, to take his bribe and disappear. I felt a strange calm settle over me. So that's what I'll tell him I'm doing. And then what? Lily asked. I met her eyes directly for the first time since entering the apartment. Then we turn his own game against him. In that moment, standing in my ex-fiancé's apartment with my former best friend, I felt something unexpected, a clarity that had nothing to do with revenge and everything to do with justice. Not just for me, but for all of us who had been manipulated by Edward's machinations. I'll need your help, I said. Both of you. Neil nodded immediately. Lily hesitated, then reached for my hand. I let her take it, feeling the familiar shape of her fingers against mine. Whatever you need, she said. Edward's smile didn't reach his eyes when I slid into the chair across from him at the upscale hotel bar. I wasn't sure you'd come. I almost didn't. I set my phone on the table between us, recording app running silently. But your offer got me thinking. And, he signaled the bartender for another drink, I want out of all of this. I leaned forward. You were right yesterday. This revenge thing, it's consuming me. Edward studied me, searching for deception. What changed your mind? I looked you up, found that blog post about what happened 7 years ago. I kept my voice neutral. I don't want to become that person. Something flickered across his face. Satisfaction, maybe, or relief. Smart decision. So let's discuss terms. $200,000 and a recommendation for a job in another city. I met his gaze steadily. In exchange, I disappear. No more trouble with Terence or his wife. No questions about your business dealings. Edward's eyebrows rose slightly. Ambitious. Fair, I countered. My life here is over. You're buying my silence and my absence. He considered this, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. I can arrange it, but I'll need something first. What? Sign some paperwork, a non-disclosure agreement primarily. He reached for his briefcase. And a few other documents, like compliance forms for the Phoenix Opportunity Fund. I kept my expression innocent. Edward's hand stilled on his briefcase. You've been busy. Just doing my research before selling my soul. I smiled thinly. That's what you're buying, isn't it? My name on your fraudulent fund? I prefer to think of it as creative finance. Edward's voice remained pleasant, but his eyes hardened. The paperwork is a formality. Insurance, if you will. Against what? Me changing my mind? Against unpredictability. He slid the briefcase toward me. Sign now, and the money will be in your account tomorrow. I opened the briefcase, examining the documents inside. The NDA, the compliance forms, all waiting for my signature. You know, I said conversationally, I've been wondering why you went to all this trouble, setting up Neil and Lily, drawing me into your scheme. I looked up at him. It seems elaborate just to find a scapegoat. Edward shrugged. Opportunity presented itself. I needed someone with financial knowledge, but no industry connections. When Neil mentioned his fiancée worked in corporate accounting, you became interesting. When you started causing problems, you became useful. And Lily, why involve her? Lily was already involved with Terence. I simply expanded her utility. His smile was cold. People are generally predictable when you understand their weaknesses. Lily craves status. Neil craves validation. You crave justice. And what do you crave, Edward? Control. He gestured to the documents. Now, sign. I picked up the pen, hovering it over the signature line. Just one more question. Does Rebecca Burke know about the fraud? Edward's expression flickered. Rebecca is irrelevant. That's not what she thinks. I set the pen down. She's been gathering evidence against you for months. Bank statements, emails between you and Terence, records of meetings that never officially happened. You're bluffing. But uncertainty had crept into his voice. Maybe. I stood up. But are you willing to bet your freedom on it? Edward's hand shot out, gripping my wrist. Sit down. We're not finished. Actually, we are. I nodded toward the bar entrance, where Detective Morales was approaching, Rebecca Burke at her side. I think they'd like to speak with you. Edward's face drained of color. What have you done? Created an opportunity. I pulled my wrist free. People are predictable when you understand their weaknesses. Your weakness is arrogance. As Detective Morales reached our table, I stepped back. He was just explaining his investment fraud scheme, Detective. I believe my phone recorded most of it. The next hour passed in a blur of statements and evidence collection. I watched from across the room as Edward was escorted out, his confident facade crumbling under the weight of Rebecca's evidence and my recording. Sophia found me sitting alone at the bar afterward. You okay? She asked, sliding onto the stool beside me. I don't know what I am. I stared into my untouched drink. Relieved? Exhausted? Empty? All of the above is allowed. Sophia squeezed my hand. What you did was brave, and a little terrifying. I laughed softly. Terrifying is accurate. I wasn't sure he'd confess. But you were sure enough to bet everything on it. She studied me. That's the old Camilla I know, the one who trusts her instincts. Her words warmed something cold inside me. I had trusted myself today, my judgment, my plan, my ability to see through Edward's manipulation. For the first time since discovering Neil and Lily's betrayal, I felt like myself again. Neil and Lily are outside, Sophia said carefully. They want to know if you'll talk to them. My stomach tightened. What do you think I should do? I think that depends on what you want now. Sophia's gaze was steady. Revenge? Closure? Something else entirely? The question echoed through all the versions of myself I'd been these past weeks. The devastated fiancé, the vengeful victim, the determined investigator. None of them felt quite right anymore. I want to move forward, I said finally, but I'm not sure what that looks like yet. Then tell them that. Sophia stood. You don't owe them forgiveness or friendship. You only owe yourself honesty. Outside, Neil and Lily waited awkwardly by the fountain in the hotel courtyard. They straightened when they saw me approach. Is it over? Lily asked. With Edward? Yes. I kept my distance, studying them both. With us? That's complicated. Camilla, we can't ever apologize enough, Neil began. I held up my hand. I don't want apologies, not tonight. What do you want? Lily's voice was small. I considered the question carefully. Space, time, a life that isn't defined by what happened between us. They exchanged glances, absorbing my words. And someday, Neil asked, someday isn't today. I met their eyes directly. Today, I'm choosing myself. As I walked away, I felt the weight of the past weeks lifting. The betrayal would always be part of my story, but it no longer felt like the most important part. What mattered more was what I'd discovered about myself, my resilience, my clarity, my capacity for both rage and compassion. The night air was cool against my skin as I stepped onto the sidewalk. Ahead of me stretched a future I couldn't yet imagine, full of possibilities I hadn't considered when revenge had narrowed my vision. I took a deep breath and began walking, not looking back. The path forward was unwritten, uncertain, but for the first time in weeks, that uncertainty felt like freedom. I knew something was off the moment I walked into the bridal suite. The air felt wrong, too still, like the pause before someone delivers bad news. Champagne bottles lined the vanity, but no one offered me a glass. 5 bridesmaids lounged in matching silk robes, their laughter cutting short when I entered. Olive, you're finally here. Penny's voice carried that sugary tone she used when she was about to be cruel. I'd known her long enough to recognize it, 15 years of friendship teaching me all her tells. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was insane. I set down my overnight bag, scanning the room for my bridesmaid robe. Everyone else was already halfway through hair and makeup. Penny glided toward me, impossibly elegant even in loungewear, her engagement ring catching the light with every gesture. Don't worry about it. Actually, I need to talk to you about something. My stomach tightened. I'd spent the last 6 months helping her plan this wedding. Countless venue tours, cake tastings, and late-night text sessions about centerpieces. I'd even taken time off work to be here for her. What's up? I asked, trying to sound casual. She guided me to the corner of the suite, but not far enough that the others couldn't hear. So, there's been a slight change with the bridesmaids' dresses. Oh? I'd already picked up my sage green gown weeks ago, had it altered to fit perfectly. Everyone else is wearing sage, but I thought... She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a practiced gesture of false apology. I thought maybe you could wear this instead. She pulled out a garment bag I hadn't noticed before, unzipping it to reveal a dress in a jarring mustard yellow. The style was completely different from what the others would be wearing. Unflattering ruffles across the bodice, a hemline that would hit at the worst possible spot on my calves. I don't understand, I said, my voice smaller than I intended. Behind us, I heard a muffled snicker. It's just that the photos will look more balanced this way, Penny explained, not quite meeting my eyes. With your body type, the sage was a bit unforgiving, and Ramon's cousin is taking your place in the original lineup. The room went silent. I could feel every eye on me, waiting for my reaction. My place in the lineup? My mouth went dry. What does that mean? Penny sighed, dropping the act. Look, you're still a bridesmaid, just not a main one anymore. You'll be at the end, next to the flower girl. The flower girl was 8. When did you decide this? I asked, heat rising to my face. Does it matter? It's my wedding, Olive. There it was, the edge in her voice, the one that appeared whenever she was challenged. I need everything to be perfect. Perfect. The word she'd been throwing around for months. Perfect venue, perfect flowers, perfect photos. And apparently, I wasn't perfect enough to stand near her. You could have told me before today, my voice cracked. Before I took time off work, before I spent $300 altering a dress I apparently won't be wearing. Claire, another bridesmaid, looked down at her champagne glass, uncomfortable. The others watched with barely concealed fascination. Don't make this a big deal, Penny said, loud enough for everyone to hear. It's just a dress, just a different spot in the lineup. But it wasn't just a dress. It was 15 years of friendship. It was every time I'd stood in Penny's shadow, telling myself it was where I belonged. It was the realization that to her, I was an accessory to be rearranged when something better came along. Who's taking my spot? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Mia, Ramon's cousin. Penny gestured toward a woman I hadn't noticed before, lounging on the chaise in the corner. Tall, willowy, with the kind of effortless beauty that belonged in magazines. She wiggled her fingers at me in a half-hearted wave. She's a model, Penny added unnecessarily. The photos will be stunning. Something inside me cracked. Not just because of the dress or the lineup, but because in that moment, I saw our friendship clearly for the first time. I was disposable to her. Always had been. I need some air, I managed to say, turning toward the door. Olive, don't be dramatic. We need to start getting ready. Penny's voice hardened. The photographer will be here in an hour. I paused at the door, looking back at the room of women who weren't really my friends, at the yellow dress laid out like an insult, at Penny's impatient expression. You know what? I quit. The words left my mouth before I could think better of them. Penny's eyes widened. You can't quit a wedding. Watch me. I grabbed my bag and walked out, the door closing on a chorus of shocked whispers. In the hallway, my hands shook as I pressed the elevator button. 15 years of friendship, and this was how it ended, with a mustard yellow dress and the realization that I'd never really mattered. The elevator doors opened, and as I stepped inside, my phone buzzed with Penny's name on the screen. I declined the call. For the first time in our friendship, I wasn't going to come when Penny called, and it felt terrifying. And right, I sat in my car in the hotel parking lot, engine off, staring at my phone as it lit up again and again. 12 missed calls from Penny, 23 text messages, each one more desperate than the last. "Olive, you're being ridiculous." "The photographer is waiting. Everyone is asking where you are. This is my day. Stop making it about you. Please come back. I'm sorry about the dress. The last one almost got me." Almost. I'd spent so many years accepting Penny's half-hearted apologies, convincing myself they meant something. Not today. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat and pressed my forehead against the steering wheel. The wedding was at 4:00. It was 1:37 now. Part of me, the part that had been Penny's faithful sidekick since middle school, wanted to go back, slip into that hideous yellow dress, and stand where I was told, but I couldn't. Not after seeing the look on her face when she'd revealed her plan. Not after realizing she'd orchestrated my humiliation in front of everyone. My phone buzzed again. Not Penny this time, but Levi. My closest friend outside of Penny's orbit. The only person who'd warned me, repeatedly, that Penny treated me like garbage. "You okay? Thought you'd be deep in wedding hell by now." I picked up the phone, my fingers hovering over the screen. What could I even say? That Penny had demoted me in her wedding party because I wasn't pretty enough for her photos. That I'd walked out 2 hours before the ceremony. "Wedding hell cancelled. I quit." His response was immediate. "Anne, what happened?" "Long story. Can I come over?" "Doors open. Bring alcohol." 30 minutes later, I was sitting on Levi's balcony, a glass of wine in my hand, spilling the whole ugly story. The yellow dress, the demotion, the model cousin who'd taken my place. "I should have seen it coming," I said, staring out at the city skyline. "She's always been like this. I just never wanted to admit it." Levi leaned back in his chair, his expression a mixture of sympathy and "I told you so." "Remember when she forgot to invite you to her birthday last year? Or when she borrowed your car for a weekend and returned it with an empty tank and a dent she never paid for?" I know. I took a long sip of wine. "I've been making excuses for her forever." "Because you're loyal. It's not a bad quality, Olive. You just gave it to someone who didn't deserve it." My phone, which I'd placed face down on the table, buzzed again. I ignored it. "Aren't you going to check that?" Levi asked. "It's just Penny. She's been texting non-stop. Maybe it's someone else from the wedding, Claire or someone." I hesitated, then flipped the phone over. It wasn't Penny, it was Claire. "You need to see this. Penny's losing it." Attached was a video. I pressed play, and Penny's face filled the screen, her makeup half done, eyes wild. "I can't believe she did this to me," she was saying to someone off camera. 15 years of friendship, and she walks out on my wedding day. After everything I've done for her. I snorted. Everything she's done for me. The video continued. Penny paced the bridal suite, gesturing dramatically. "She's always been jealous. Always. Ever since Ramon and I got together. She can't stand that I'm happy." My stomach dropped. "What is she talking about? I introduced them." "You know what?" Penny's voice turned cold in the video. "This is better. The photos will be perfect now. And honestly, I was only keeping her in the wedding because I felt sorry for her. She's been so pathetic since Gareth dumped her." The video ended. I stared at the blank screen, my cheeks burning with humiliation and rage. "Wow," Levi said quietly. Wow. She's lying." My voice shook. I wasn't jealous. I helped her pick out her engagement ring for God's sake. Another text from Claire came through. "There's more. She told everyone you've been in love with Ramon for years. That's why she says you quit." The room seemed to tilt sideways. This wasn't just Penny being thoughtless or self-centered. This was deliberate character assassination. She's rewriting history, I whispered, making me the villain so she doesn't have to feel bad about what she did. Levy took my phone gently from my hand. Classic narcissist move. When they can't control you, they control how others see you. Something cold and hard settled in my chest. All those years of friendship, of putting Penny first, of shrinking myself to make her shine. And this was how she repaid me, by destroying my reputation the moment I stood up for myself. I need to respond, I said, reaching for my phone. I need to tell everyone what really happened. That's exactly what she wants, Levi warned. She wants you to look crazy and defensive. To prove her right. I paused, a new thought forming. What if I don't react at all? What if I do something she'd never expect? Like what? I took a deep breath, the beginnings of a plan taking shape. Like showing everyone exactly who Penny Kennedy really is. Levi's eyebrows shot up. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, I said slowly, that Penny's not the only one with access to embarrassing information. And I'm thinking her perfect wedding livestream might need some editorial adjustments. A slow smile spread across Levi's face. You know I work in IT, right? Specifically network security and digital systems. For the first time since walking out of that bridal suite, I felt something other than hurt, something that felt dangerously close to power. Tell me more, I said. So the live stream is being handled by Ramon's cousin's company, I explained, pacing Levi's living room. Penny wouldn't stop bragging about how they're using some fancy multi-camera setup so her family in Europe can watch. Levi nodded, fingers flying across his laptop keyboard. And you're sure it's going live on their wedding website? Positive. She sent everyone the link last week. I pulled up the email on my phone and showed him. The ceremony starts in an hour. Perfect. Levi's eyes never left his screen. Their security is decent, but not great. I can probably get us access to their video feed before it goes public. My stomach fluttered with a mixture of anxiety and exhilaration. Was I really doing this? Planning to sabotage Penny's wedding livestream? What exactly are we looking for? Levi asked. I sat down beside him, my resolve hardening as I remembered Claire's video. Penny smearing my name, twisting our friendship into something ugly. Penny keeps a private Instagram account, I said. Only her closest friends have access. She posts things there she'd never want public. Complaints about guests, unflattering drunk photos, screenshots of private conversations. Including stuff about Ramon. I nodded. She's not always kind about him, or his family, especially when she's been drinking. Levi whistled low. And you think we can splice that content into the live stream? If anyone can figure it out, it's you. I bumped his shoulder with mine. You're the tech genius. He gave me a half smile. Flattery will get you everywhere. But Olive, are you sure about this? Once it's done, there's no taking it back. The question hit me harder than I expected. Was I sure? This wasn't just standing up for myself. This was active revenge, something I'd never considered myself capable of before today. My voice caught. I don't know. But she's telling everyone I'm in love with her fiancé. She humiliated me in front of people I've known for years. And she's been doing this kind of thing our entire friendship. Levi set his laptop aside and turned to face me fully. You don't have to justify it to me. I'm on your side no matter what. I just want you to be sure you can live with whatever happens next. His concern made my eyes sting. When was the last time someone had prioritized my feelings this way? Let me think about it, I said finally. Can we at least get access to the feed? Then I'll decide. Fair enough. He returned to his laptop. This might take a while. Want to order food? 2 hours and 1 pizza later, Levi let out a triumphant, "Ha!" that made me jump. You did it? I asked, leaning over to see his screen. I'm in. And look, they're already streaming. The ceremony just ended. Sure enough, there was Penny in her designer gown, radiant as she and Ramon walked back down the aisle. Guests threw rose petals. Everyone smiled. It looked perfect, exactly as Penny had planned. My resolve wavered. Maybe this is a mistake. Maybe I should just let it go. Levi didn't respond immediately. Then, hold on, what's this? He clicked through some files on the production company's server. They've got pre-ceremony footage. Looks like they were filming in the bridal suite earlier. Can you play it? He nodded, clicking on a file. The video opened to show Penny in her robe, champagne in hand, surrounded by bridesmaids. My stomach clenched at the familiar scene. This was filmed right before I arrived. So Olive's coming, right? One of the bridesmaids asked. You said she was bringing the special champagne. Penny rolled her eyes. God, I hope she remembers. I told her like 5 times. But you know Olive, always a mess. Is she still wearing that green dress? Another voice asked. Mia, Ramon's model cousin. Penny laughed, the sound sharp and mean. No way. I had the yellow one made special. There's no way I'm letting her ruin my photos. Can you imagine? She'd look like a lumpy sofa next to you all. The bridesmaids tittered nervously. Penny, Claire's voice came from off-camera. That's really mean. Oh, please. Penny waved her hand dismissively. Olive knows her place. She always comes back, no matter how I treat her. It's actually kind of sad. The video continued, but I couldn't watch anymore. My hand shook as I stood up. Are you okay? Levi asked, pausing the footage. Play the rest, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I want to see it all. For the next 20 minutes, we watched as Penny mocked me, complained about Ramon's family, and made racist comments about the wedding coordinator. She bragged about how she'd manipulated Ramon into a more expensive venue and admitted she'd only invited his parents because they were paying for the honeymoon. By the end, my shock had hardened into something cold and certain. So, Levi said quietly, what do you want to do? I took a deep breath. I want to show everyone exactly who they're celebrating today. You're sure? I nodded, but not like we planned, not with her private Instagram. I pointed to the screen. With this, her own words, in her own voice, no editing, no manipulation, just the truth. Levi studied my face. That's actually more elegant and more devastating. Can you do it? Can you make this footage play during the reception live stream? He cracked his knuckles. Absolutely. The question is when. I thought about it, remembering the wedding schedule I'd helped create. The speeches. Right after Ramon's best man speaks, Penny's going to give a toast. That's when everyone will be watching. Perfect timing. Levi turned back to his laptop. I'll set it up, but Olive. Yeah? This changes things between you and Penny forever. You know that, right? I looked at the frozen image of Penny on the screen, her face twisted in mockery as she imitated me. 15 years of friendship, and this was who she really was, who she'd always been. Good, I said. It's about time. We should go to the venue, I said, checking the time on my phone. The reception's starting soon. Levi looked up from his laptop. You want to be there in person? Are you sure that's a good idea? I need to see her face when it happens. The certainty in my voice surprised even me. Besides, we need to be close enough to make sure the stream works. Fair point. He closed his laptop and slipped it into his messenger bag. But how are we getting in? Won't they have your name crossed off the list by now? I smiled, pulling out my phone to show him the text from Claire. Everyone's asking where you are. Penny told the coordinator you're dealing with a personal emergency, but will be at the reception. She's worried you'll make a scene if she officially cuts you from the guest list. She's keeping up appearances, I explained. Classic Penny move. She'd rather pretend everything's fine than admit she lost control of someone. Levi grabbed his car keys. Then let's crash a wedding. 30 minutes later, we pulled into the parking lot of the Westbrook, an upscale hotel where Penny had booked the grand ballroom. Through the lobby windows, I could see guests in formal wear mingling, champagne glasses in hand. Ready? Levi asked, squeezing my hand. I nodded, though my heart hammered against my ribs. We walked through the lobby toward the ballroom entrance, where a bored-looking attendant checked names off a list. Olive Grant, I said with more confidence than I felt. And guest. The attendant scanned the list, then nodded. Go right in. They're about to serve dinner. Inside, the ballroom was transformed exactly as Penny had planned. Soft lighting, lush floral arrangements, a string quartet playing in the corner. I spotted Penny and Ramon at the head table, her hand possessively on his arm as they greeted guests. There's a service corridor behind that door, I whispered to Levi, pointing discreetly. It leads to a small control room where the AV team is set up. That's where we need to be. How do you know that? I helped plan this wedding, remember? I know every inch of this venue. We skirted the edge of the room, avoiding Penny's line of sight. Just as we reached the service door, someone called my name. Olive, oh my God, you came. I turned to see Claire hurrying toward us, her sage green bridesmaid dress swishing around her ankles. Her eyes were wide with surprise and something else. Relief? Claire, hi. I tensed, unsure if she was friend or foe after everything that had happened. This is Levi. Nice to meet you. She barely glanced at him before turning back to me. Olive, I'm so sorry about what happened. The way Penny treated you was awful. Her sincerity caught me off guard. Claire had always been firmly in Penny's orbit, never questioning, never challenging. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. She looked around nervously. Because I'm tired of it too. The way she talks about people behind their backs, the constant manipulation. After you left, she spent an hour spreading lies about you. I know. I saw the video you sent. Claire shook her head. That was just the beginning. It got worse at the ceremony. She lowered her voice. She told Ramon's parents you declined to be in the wedding because you're in love with him. My stomach dropped. She what? His mother kept giving me these pitying looks, asking if you were getting the help you need. Claire's expression hardened. It's disgusting, and it's not the first time she's done something like this. I exchanged glances with Levi. What do you mean? Remember Jasmine? Penny's roommate from college? Claire asked. Of course. Jasmine had been part of our friend group until she and Penny had a falling out 3 years ago. Penny said she stole money from her. Claire laughed bitterly. That's what she told everyone. The truth is, Jasmine caught Penny cheating on Ramon with her ex. Penny destroyed her reputation before she could tell anyone. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Not just because it meant Penny had cheated on Ramon, but because I'd believed her lies about Jasmine. I'd cut Jasmine out of my life without question, just like Penny wanted. How do you know this? I asked. Jasmine reached out to me last year, showed me texts, photos, everything. Claire glanced toward the head table. I confronted Penny. She swore it was a one-time mistake, that she truly loves Ramon. Made me promise not to tell anyone. I felt sick. How many other people had Penny hurt? How many relationships had she poisoned? Why are you telling me this now? I asked again. Because I saw your face when you walked out of that bridal suite. Claire's eyes filled with tears. And I recognized it. It's the same face I see in the mirror every time I let Penny manipulate me into hurting someone else. Her words hung between us, raw and honest. In that moment, I saw Claire not as Penny's accomplice, but as another victim of her manipulation. Claire, I said carefully, what would you say if I told you Penny's about to get exactly what she deserves? She studied my face. I'd say it's about damn time. I glanced at Levi, who gave me a subtle nod. Do you know when the speeches are scheduled? I asked. After the main course. About 20 minutes from now. Claire's eyes narrowed. Why? What are you planning? I took a deep breath. Something that can't be undone. Something that might hurt Ramon too. Ramon deserves to know who he married, Claire said firmly, and I want to help. Her offer surprised me. You'd risk your friendship with Penny. What friendship? Claire's laugh was hollow. I'm just another prop to her, like you were, like we all are. In that moment, my plan shifted. It wasn't just about my revenge anymore. It was about breaking Penny's power over all of us. Okay, I said, making a decision. Here's what we need to do. The service corridor was narrow and dimly lit, smelling of cleaning products and kitchen steam. Claire led the way. her bridesmaid dress brushing against the walls as we hurried toward the AV control room. "It's just ahead," she whispered. "There's usually only one tech person monitoring everything." Levi adjusted his messenger bag. "Perfect. I can handle that." We reached a door marked "Staff Only," and Claire knocked softly. A young man with headphones opened it, his eyes widening at the sight of Claire in her bridesmaid dress. "Hi, Josh," she said, flashing a smile I'd never seen her use before. "These are the additional techs I mentioned. For the special video surprise?" Josh frowned. "No one told me about any special video." "It's a last-minute addition from the bride," I interjected, stepping forward. "Penny wants it played right after the best man's speech. She's very particular about the timing." "I don't know." Josh hesitated. "I'm supposed to follow the rundown sheet." Claire touched his arm. "It's Penny's wedding gift to Ramon. She'll be devastated if it doesn't happen exactly as she planned." I watched with grudging admiration as Claire manipulated him. She'd clearly learned from the master. "Fine," Josh sighed. "But if anything goes wrong, I'm telling them it was your idea." "Of course," Claire agreed sweetly. Josh let us into the small room, which was crowded with monitors showing different angles of the reception. One screen displayed the live stream that was currently broadcasting to absent guests and Penny's social media followers. "I need to check on the wedding party," Claire said. "They'll wonder where I am. Josh, could you show me which entrance gets me back to the head table quickest?" As Claire led Josh out of the room, Levi immediately sat down at the control panel and connected his laptop. "We have maybe 10 minutes before he comes back," I said, watching the door. "That's all I need." Levy's fingers flew across the keyboard. "I'm setting up the pre-ceremony footage to automatically insert into the live stream during the speeches." I looked at the monitors, watching guests laugh and eat. On the center screen, Penny glowed with bridal perfection, accepting compliments and posing for photos. Ramon sat beside her, looking handsome but slightly uncomfortable in his tuxedo. "What if this is wrong?" I said suddenly. "Ramon didn't do anything to deserve this." Levi paused his typing. "You're having second thoughts?" "Not about Penny, but Ramon, finding out his wife cheated on him, in front of everyone, on his wedding day. From what Claire said, it sounds like he deserves to know the truth. But like this," I gestured at the screens, "in front of his family, his friends, while the whole thing streams online." Levi turned to face me fully. "Olive, what's really going on? This was your idea." I sank into the chair beside him, the weight of what we were about to do suddenly heavy on my shoulders. "I want Penny to face consequences. I want everyone to see who she really is. But I'm becoming just like her, aren't I?" The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Manipulating people, orchestrating public humiliation, using other people's pain for my own purposes. Levy was quiet for a moment. "There's a difference," he finally said. "Penny hurts people to elevate herself. You're exposing the truth to stop her from hurting more people. The result is the same, though. Pain, humiliation." I looked at the monitor where Ramon was now laughing at something his best man said. "He doesn't deserve this." Before Levi could respond, the door opened and Claire slipped back in. "Josh is getting the microphones ready for the speeches," she said breathlessly. "We don't have much time." She noticed our serious expressions. "What's wrong?" "I'm not sure we should do this," I admitted. "Not to Ramon, at least." Claire's expression softened. "I understand. But Olive, there's something you should know." She pulled out her phone and opened her text messages. "This is from Jasmine. I texted her after our conversation earlier." She handed me the phone. The message read, "It wasn't just once with the ex. She's been seeing Gareth again for months. Ramon has no idea." My blood ran cold. "Gareth? My Gareth?" Claire nodded grimly. "Your ex. Penny's been sleeping with him since before you two broke up." The room seemed to tilt sideways. Gareth had ended our relationship 6 months ago, claiming he needed space and wasn't ready for commitment. 2 weeks later, Penny had asked me to be her bridesmaid, consoling me over wine about how men were trash and I deserved better, all while she was sleeping with him. "How do you know this is true?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "Jasmine has proof. Screenshots of their conversations, photos of them together." Claire took her phone back. "I'm sorry, Olive. I thought you knew." The final piece clicked into place. Why Penny had been so eager to keep me close, to make me her bridesmaid, despite clearly not wanting me in her photos. It wasn't friendship. It was guilt. Or worse, a sick enjoyment of having power over me. "Do it," I said to Levi, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "Play everything, all of it." Levi studied my face. "You're sure?" Ramon deserves to know who he married, and I deserve to stop protecting someone who never protected me. He nodded and turned back to his laptop. "It's set. When the best man finishes his speech, the pre-ceremony footage will automatically cut into the live stream." "What about the ballroom screens?" Claire asked. "Everyone here needs to see it too." "Already done," Levi confirmed. "The same feed goes to the projectors in the room." A commotion from the monitors drew our attention. The best man was standing, tapping his champagne glass with a spoon. Guests were taking their seats. "It's starting," Claire whispered. I watched as the best man began his speech, telling stories about Ramon's college days, their friendship, how he'd never seen Ramon as happy as he was with Penny. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. In just minutes, everything would change. Relationships would shatter, reputations would crumble, and I would be responsible. "Olive," Levi said quietly, his hand finding mine. "Last chance to stop this." I looked at the monitor where Penny sat, radiant in her white gown, a picture of innocent joy as she gazed adoringly at Ramon. "No," I said, squeezing Levi's hand. "Some truths need to be told." The best man's speech dragged on, each joke and sentimental story stretching my nerves tighter. On the monitor, I watched Penny laugh at all the right moments, her hand resting possessively on Ramon's arm. The perfect bride, the perfect lie. "And so," the best man concluded, raising his glass, "to Ramon and Penny, may your marriage be as beautiful as today has been." Guests applauded. Penny stood to take the microphone, smoothing her gown with practiced grace. "It's happening," Claire whispered. Levi's program was set to trigger the moment Penny began speaking. I held my breath, watching her lips form the words, "Thank you all for coming," when suddenly the control room door burst open. Josh rushed in, followed by a tall man in a tuxedo I recognized immediately. Gareth, my ex-boyfriend, Penny's lover. "What the hell is going on in here?" Gareth demanded, his eyes landing on me with a flash of recognition. "Olive, how did you—" I began, but Josh cut me off. "I checked with the wedding planner. There's no special video surprise." He pointed accusingly at Claire. "You lied to me." Claire stepped forward. "Josh, please, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Gareth interrupted, his gaze moving from me to Levi's laptop, which was connected to the control panel. "You're trying to sabotage Penny's wedding." The irony of his concern for Penny's wedding nearly made me laugh. "That's rich coming from you, Gareth. How long have you been sleeping with the bride?" His face paled. "What are you talking about?" "Don't bother denying it. We know everything." I gestured to Claire. "We have proof." Josh looked between us, confusion written across his face. "What's happening?" "Nothing," Gareth said firmly. "These two aren't authorized to be here, and whatever they've set up needs to be disconnected immediately." He moved toward Levi's laptop, but I stepped between them. "Don't touch it," I warned. "Olive, be reasonable," Gareth said, his voice dropping to that soothing tone he'd always used when he wanted to manage me. "Whatever you think you know, this isn't the way to handle it. Reasonable." I felt something snap inside me. Was it reasonable when you dumped me because you weren't ready for commitment, while you were screwing my best friend behind my back? Was it reasonable when Penny asked me to be her bridesmaid, knowing what she'd done? Gareth's expression confirmed everything before he could deny it. Josh's eyes widened as he finally understood the drama unfolding in his control room. "Holy shit," Josh muttered. On the monitor, Penny was midway through her speech, thanking her parents for their support. The countdown on Levi's laptop showed 30 seconds until the video would interrupt the live stream. "You need to stop this," Gareth said, an edge of panic in his voice. "You have no idea what you're about to do." "I know exactly what I'm doing," I replied. "I'm showing everyone who Penny really is. And destroying Ramon in the process," Gareth countered. "Is that what you want? To hurt an innocent person?" His words hit their mark. Ramon was innocent, but then again, so was I when Penny decided to sleep with my boyfriend. 20 seconds, Levi murmured. Gareth turned to him. "Look, man, I get that you're helping your friend, but this is going too far. There are better ways to handle this." "Like how?" Claire demanded. "Penny has manipulated and hurt people for years. She's never faced a single consequence." "So talk to her," Gareth exclaimed. "Confront her privately. Hell, tell Ramon privately if you must, but not like this. Not in front of everyone he loves." 10 seconds, Levi said. I looked at the monitor where Ramon sat, smiling up at his new wife with genuine adoration. In that moment, I saw myself 6 months ago, looking at Gareth the same way, completely unaware of the betrayal happening behind my back. "Stop it," I said suddenly to Levi. "Turn it off." Levi looked up, surprised. "Are you sure?" "Yes." The certainty in my voice surprised even me. Gareth is right about one thing. Ramon doesn't deserve this. Levi quickly typed a command, cancelling the program with 2 seconds to spare. I exhaled, not realizing I'd been holding my breath. "Thank you," Gareth said, relief evident in his voice. I turned to him, my momentary compassion for Ramon hardening into renewed anger. "Don't thank me, this isn't over." "Olive." "No," I cut him off. "You don't get to speak to me. Not after what you did." On the monitor, Penny was concluding her speech, raising her glass in a toast, the perfect image of the blushing bride, untouched by the chaos unfolding behind the scenes. "So what now?" Claire asked quietly. Before I could answer, the control room door opened again. This time, it was Nadine, the wedding coordinator I'd worked with for months planning Penny's perfect day. "There you are, Olive," she said, her professional smile firmly in place despite the tension radiating through the room. "Penny's asking for you." "Me?" I couldn't hide my surprise. "Why?" "She wants all the bridesmaids for photos before the cake cutting." Nadine's eyes took in the strange gathering in the control room, but remained professionally neutral. "She specifically mentioned you should be included." Claire and I exchanged glances. This made no sense. Penny had humiliated me, demoted me, and spread lies about me. Now she wanted me in her photos. "Tell her I declined," I said. Nadine's smile tightened. She was quite insistent. "Said to tell you it's important." A cold realization washed over me. This wasn't about photos. Penny must have noticed my absence, perhaps even spotted me entering the service corridor. She was trying to flush me out, to control the situation as she always did. "Actually," I said slowly, a new plan forming, "tell her I'll be right there." After Nadine left, Gareth grabbed my arm. "Olive, whatever you're thinking..." I jerked away from his touch. "You lost the right to tell me what to do when you started sleeping with my best friend." "It wasn't like that," he insisted. "It's complicated." "It's actually very simple," I replied, my voice steady. "You're both liars. And now, instead of exposing Penny to everyone, I'm going to confront her directly, just like you suggested." I turned to Claire. "Are you with me?" She nodded without hesitation. "Absolutely." As we headed for the door, Levi called after me. "What should I do with the footage?" I paused, looking back at him, then at Gareth, whose face had gone pale again. "Keep it ready," I said. "This isn't over until Penny faces what she's done." The ballroom was a blur of elegant decorations and clinking glasses as Claire and I made our way through the crowd. My heart hammered against my ribs. each beat a reminder of what I was about to do. Confront Penny, in person, at her wedding. "Are you okay?" Claire asked, her voice barely audible above the string quartet. "No," I admitted, "but I'm done letting her think she can control me." We approached the head table where Penny sat, laughing with Ramon and his parents. When she spotted us, her smile faltered for just a fraction of a second before returning, brighter and more artificial than before. "Olive," she exclaimed, rising from her seat. "You made it. I was so worried about you." The performance was flawless, concern in her eyes, warmth in her voice. If I hadn't known better, I might have believed she actually cared. "Nadine said you wanted photos," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "Yes, of course." She gestured to a photographer hovering nearby. "We're doing the bridesmaid pictures before cake cutting. I saved you a spot." Ramon stood, offering me a genuine smile. "Olive, glad you could make it after all. Penny was really upset when you had your emergency." The kindness in his eyes made my stomach twist. He had no idea what was coming. "Actually," I said, "I need to speak with Penny privately first. Bridesmaid stuff." Penny's smile tightened. "Can't it wait? The photographer's on a schedule." "It'll just take a minute," Claire interjected, linking her arm through Penny's. "Wedding day jitters, right?" Before Penny could protest further, we guided her away from the table, through a set of French doors that led to a small terrace overlooking the hotel gardens. The night air was cool against my flushed skin, the distant sound of traffic a reminder of the world beyond this moment. As soon as the doors closed behind us, Penny yanked her arm free from Claire's grasp. "What the hell is going on?" she demanded, her bride persona vanishing instantly. "First you abandoned me this morning, then you sneak around my reception with Claire. Are you trying to ruin my wedding?" "That was the plan," I said calmly. Her eyes widened. "What?" "We were going to expose you, Penny. Show everyone who you really are." "What are you talking about?" She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Expose what?" "The things you said about me this morning. The lies you've been spreading about me being in love with Ramon. Your affair with Gareth." The colour drained from her face. "You're insane." "We have proof," Claire said. "Videos, texts, everything." Penny's gaze darted between us, calculating. I could almost see her mind racing, looking for an escape route, a way to twist this to her advantage. "So what now?" she finally asked. "You're going to humiliate me at my own wedding? Destroy my marriage before it even begins? That's pretty vindictive, Olive. I didn't think you had it in you." "That's the difference between us," I replied. "I don't want to be like you. I don't want to hurt people just because I can." "Then why are you here?" Her voice took on a desperate edge. "What do you want?" The question hung in the air between us. What did I want? Revenge? Justice? An apology? None of it seemed enough to heal the wound of her betrayal. "I want you to admit what you did," I said finally. "To my face. No more lies, no more manipulation." Penny's expression hardened. "Fine. You want the truth?" "Yes, Gareth and I have been seeing each other. It started before you broke up. And yes, I said those things about you this morning. You want to know why?" "Enlighten me," I said, my voice cold, "because you've always been so pathetically eager to please, so desperate for my approval. It was exhausting, Olive, always having you there, looking up to me, needing me." Her words came faster now, venom in every syllable. "And then Ramon proposed, and suddenly everyone was focused on me, my perfect day, my perfect life. I couldn't have you there in your perfect little bridesmaid dress, with your perfect little speech about our friendship. It would have been too fake." Each word was a slap, but I stood my ground. "So you decided to humiliate me instead, to spread lies about me. I needed you out of the picture, but I knew you'd never walk away on your own. You're too loyal." She spat the last word like an insult. "So, yes, I pushed until you broke, and it worked." Claire stepped forward. "You're unbelievable. Do you even hear yourself?" Penny turned to her. "Oh, please, don't act so shocked. You've been right there with me for years, Claire, laughing at the same jokes, Excluding the same people, you're no better than I am. You're right, Claire admitted. I'm not proud of who I've been, but at least I'm trying to change. The terrace door opened, and Ramon stepped out. Everything okay out here? They're waiting for us to cut the cake. The three of us froze. How much had he heard? Everything's fine, honey, Penny said, her voice instantly transforming back into the loving bride. Just some last-minute bridesmaid drama. Ramon looked between us, his brow furrowed. It doesn't look fine. Something in his expression told me he'd heard more than Penny realized. A decision crystallized in my mind. Ramon, I said quietly, there's something you should know. Olive, don't, Penny warned, panic flashing in her eyes. I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I'd called my best friend for 15 years. The woman who'd betrayed me without a second thought. In that moment, I saw her clearly for the first time. Not as the confident, perfect Penny I'd always envied, but as someone so deeply insecure that she had to destroy others to feel powerful. Penny has been having an affair, I said, my eyes never leaving hers. With my ex-boyfriend, Gareth. It started before he and I broke up. Ramon's sharp intake of breath was the only sound on the terrace. Penny's face contorted with rage. You bitch, she hissed. After everything I've done for you. Is it true? Ramon cut her off, his voice dangerously quiet. The silence stretched between them, thick with 15 years of my misplaced loyalty and 6 months of Penny's lies. Ramon, baby, she's just jealous, Penny tried, reaching for his hand. She's always wanted what we have. He stepped back from her touch. Answer the question, Penny. Is it true? In that moment, something broke in Penny's perfect facade. Her shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of her. It wasn't serious, she whispered. It didn't mean anything. The words hung in the air, a confession that couldn't be taken back. Ramon's face hardened as he looked at his bride of less than 6 hours. Where is he? He asked. Is he here? As if on cue, the terrace door opened again, and Gareth stepped out, followed by Levi. Their eyes widened as they took in the tableau before them. Perfect timing, I said quietly, as the final act of Penny's perfect day began to unravel. The terrace fell silent as Ramon looked between Penny and Gareth, his jaw clenched so tight I could see a muscle twitching in his cheek. You, he said to Gareth, his voice dangerously quiet. You're the guy. Gareth shifted uncomfortably. Look, man. Don't look, man, me, Ramon cut him off. You slept with my wife? At our engagement party? In my apartment? My head snapped toward Penny. Your engagement party. The one I helped plan. Penny wouldn't meet my eyes. Confirmation enough. I remembered that night clearly. Staying until 2 a.m., helping clean up while Penny claimed a migraine and disappeared to lie down in Ramon's bedroom. Meanwhile, Gareth had mysteriously needed to leave early for a work emergency. I'd been so blind. Ramon, please, Penny reached for him, desperation cracking her perfect facade. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. Twice in 2 minutes you've said it didn't mean anything, Ramon replied, stepping away from her touch. Is that supposed to make me feel better? The terrace door opened again, and Nadine poked her head out. Everyone's waiting for the cake cutting, she announced, then paused, reading the tension. Is everything all right? No, Ramon said flatly. Everything is not all right. He turned to Penny, something final in his expression. I can't do this. Ramon, wait. Penny grabbed his arm as he moved toward the door. Don't. He shook her off. I need to think. As Ramon pushed past Nadine into the ballroom, Penny rounded on me, her face contorted with rage. Are you happy now? She hissed. You've ruined everything. You ruined it yourself, I replied, surprised by the calmness in my voice. I just stopped pretending I didn't see it. I should have known you'd turn on me eventually, she spat. You've always been jealous of me, always wanting what I have. I almost laughed. That's what you think this is about? Jealousy? What else? You couldn't stand that I got the perfect guy, the perfect wedding. Perfect? I interrupted. Penny, look around you. Your husband just walked out. Your lover is standing right here. Your perfect wedding is falling apart because you couldn't stop lying for one day." She flinched as though I'd slapped her. "The sad thing is," I continued, "I never wanted what you had. I wanted your friendship, your loyalty. I thought I had it until I realized you don't know what those words mean." Gareth stepped forward. "Penny, we should go inside. Damage control." She nodded, composing herself with visible effort. Before they reached the door, I called after them. "Penny." She turned, her expression guarded. "I'm not going to show the videos," I said. "Not to the guests, not online. Not because you deserve my protection, but because I don't need revenge anymore. I just needed the truth." Something flickered across her face. Relief? Regret? I couldn't tell. Without another word, she and Gareth disappeared into the ballroom. Claire squeezed my arm. "Are you okay?" Surprisingly, yes. And I meant it. The weight I'd been carrying, the hurt, the anger, the need for vindication, had lifted, leaving something lighter in its place. Levi joined us at the railing, looking out over the darkened gardens. "So that's it. After everything she did, she just walks away." "She's not walking away," I said. "She's going back to face 300 guests and a husband who just found out she cheated on him. That's its own kind of reckoning." "Still feels like she's getting off easy," Claire muttered. "Maybe," I conceded, "but I'm not responsible for making Penny face consequences. I'm only responsible for how I respond to what she did." Levi studied my face. "When did you get so wise?" "About 20 minutes ago," I laughed, and it felt good, real and unexpected. The terrace door opened again. This time it was Ramon, his tie loosened, his expression somber. "Can I talk to you?" he asked me. Claire and Levi exchanged glances. "We'll be inside," Levi said, giving my shoulder a supportive squeeze before they left us alone. Ramon leaned against the railing beside me, looking out at the night sky. "I just told everyone the reception is over." "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. "Don't be. Better to end it now than live a lie." He turned to face me. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? About Penny and Gareth?" "I only found out today," I admitted, "when I discovered she'd been lying about me, too." He nodded slowly. "The bridesmaid dress, the lineup change. You knew about that?" "I overheard her talking to Mia this morning." His mouth twisted. "I thought it was just wedding stress making her act cruel. I should have seen the pattern." We stood in silence for a moment, the distant sound of confused guests leaving the ballroom drifting through the closed doors. "What will you do now?" I asked. "Annulment," he said simply, "then probably get very drunk and sleep for a week." Despite everything, I smiled. "Sounds like a solid plan." "What about you?" he asked. "What happens after you burn the bridge with your oldest friend?" The question caught me off guard. What did come next? For so long, my life had orbited around Penny's, her needs, her plans, her approval. Without that, who was I? "I don't know," I said honestly, "but for the first time in years, that feels exciting rather than terrifying." Ramon nodded, understanding in his eyes. Freedom often does. Inside, I could hear Penny's voice rising above the murmurs, demanding something from the staff. Some habits die hard. "I should go deal with all of that," Ramon sighed. "Want backup?" I offered. He considered it, then shook his head. "I think we've both spent enough time cleaning up Penny's messes." As he turned to leave, I felt a sudden urge to say something more, something to mark this strange, unexpected moment of clarity between us. "Ramon," he paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I think we both deserved better friends than we chose." He smiled, sad but genuine. "Maybe next time we'll choose better." After he left, I stayed on the terrace, breathing in the night air. My phone buzzed with a text from Levi. "We're in the lobby when you're ready. No rush." No rush. The words struck me as profound in their simplicity. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I wasn't racing to meet someone else's expectations or timeline. I wasn't molding myself to fit into someone else's story. I looked up at the stars, bright and distant and indifferent to the human drama unfolding beneath them. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, explanations to mutual friends, awkward encounters, the inevitable social media fallout. But tonight, standing alone on this terrace, I felt something I hadn't expected to find at Penny's wedding. I felt free.
I stood in Grandma's garden, breathing in the familiar scent of her prized roses, while Mum's words still rang in my ears. Let your sister have it. She's the favourite after all. She'd said it so casually, like commenting on the weather, not dropping a bomb that shattered my world. I'm Samara, and this garden had been my sanctuary since I was old enough to toddle after Grandma with a tiny watering can. Now, just 2 weeks after her funeral, my mother had decided my sister Layla deserved this piece of heaven more than I did. "Samara!" Mum's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. "Come inside, we need to discuss the paperwork." I wiped my eyes quickly and headed into the kitchen where Mum and Layla sat at the worn oak table. The same table where Grandma taught me to roll cookie dough and whispered her secret recipe for happiness. Create something beautiful, share it with others, and watch joy multiply. "Sign here," Mum pushed the papers toward me. "It's just a formality to transfer the deed to Layla." "Don't worry, little sis," Layla smiled, that condescending smile I knew too well. "You can visit any time. Maybe I'll even let you tend to those old roses." My hand trembled as I reached for the pen. Did anyone actually ask me if I wanted the house? Mum's eyes narrowed. "Samara, don't start. Layla has a family to think about, and you're still—" She waved her hand dismissively. "Finding yourself." "Oh, finding myself?" I laughed, but it came out hollow. "I run my own consulting business. I make more than Layla does at her corporate job." "That little online thing you do?" Mum scoffed. "Layla has stability, responsibility. She needs this house more than you do." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. Grandma taught me everything about this garden. Every single plant has a story she shared with me while Layla was too busy with her friends to visit. "That's exactly why you don't need the house," Layla interjected. "You already have the memories. I need to make new ones with my kids." My best friend Michelle's words from last night echoed in my head. "Don't let them see you break. Whatever happens, stay strong and strategic." I took a deep breath and signed the papers, watching Layla's triumphant smile grow. "Congratulations," I said, my voice steady. "I hope you appreciate what you've been given." As I walked toward the door, Mum called out, "Don't be dramatic, Samara. Family decisions aren't always fair, but they're for the best." I paused at the threshold, looking back at the kitchen where so many of my childhood memories lived. "You're right, Mom. Sometimes they're not fair at all." Walking down the familiar path one last time, I noticed a "for sale" sign on the empty house next door. I stopped, staring at it as an idea began to form. The property shared a fence with Grandma's beloved garden. My phone buzzed, a text from Michelle. "How did it go?" I typed back quickly. "They did exactly what we expected. Time for plan B. Can you meet me at the cafe in 20? On my way, bringing my real estate contact's number too. I smiled for the first time that day, remembering another of Grandma's lessons. Sometimes the best revenge is building something beautiful right under someone's nose. Looking back at the house one last time, I saw Layla and Mom through the window, probably already planning renovations that would erase Grandma's touch. They had no idea what I was about to do. My phone rang. It was Craig, my business consultant. "Perfect timing," I answered. "Remember how you said I should invest my profits in property?" "Finally ready to take that leap?" he asked. "More than ready, and I know exactly where to start." I walked toward my car, purpose in every step. "How quickly can you help me set up an LLC?" "Give me till tomorrow morning." "But Samara, are you sure about this? Real estate is a big commitment." I looked at the for sale sign again, imagining the possibilities. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. They think they know what I'm capable of, Craig. They're about to find out how wrong they are. As I drove away, I caught one last glimpse of Grandma's roses in my rearview mirror. "Watch me, Grandma," I whispered. "I'm about to create something beautiful, just like you taught me. And this time, no one can take it away. The asking price is $350, but I think we can get it for $320. Michelle's real estate contact, Nicole, said as we walked through the empty house next to Grandma's. "It needs work, but the bones are good." I ran my hand along the wall, already seeing possibilities. How fast can we close? Eager, aren't we? Nicole smiled, her eyes sharp and knowing. "I like that. With cash we could close in 2 weeks. Fun." I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to Craig about transferring the funds from my business account. Michelle whistled. "Girl, you're not playing around." "I learned from the best," I said, thinking of Grandma's business sense. Everyone saw the sweet old lady with her roses, but few knew she'd built a small empire of rental properties before retiring. My phone buzzed, Mom calling. I declined it and turned to Nicole. "What about the property on the other side?" Nicole's eyebrows shot up. "Actually, that owner contacted me yesterday. They're considering selling." "Perfect. Let's make an offer before they list it." "Samara," Michelle grabbed my arm, "are you sure about this? That's a lot of capital to tie up at once." I led them to the bay window overlooking Grandma's garden, where Layla was already cutting down the rose bushes to make room for a playground. I've never been more sure. 3 weeks later, I sat in Craig's office, reviewing the paperwork for my second property acquisition. "The community development proposal looks solid," he said, sliding a folder across his desk. "But are you sure about the women's business incubator concept?" "Absolutely. This area needs it, and I know exactly who to bring in first." I pulled up Amelia's Instagram page, showcasing her handmade jewellery. Local artisans like her just need space and support to grow. Craig nodded slowly. "It's actually brilliant. The renovation costs are high, but the potential return is more than just financial," I finished, "though that part won't hurt either." My phone buzzed again. Another missed call from Mom. I'd been dodging family dinners for weeks, making excuses about work. "Speaking of family," Craig said carefully, "have you told them about any of this?" I laughed. "Mum still thinks I play around on the internet for a living. Let them keep thinking that." Later that afternoon, I met with Amelia at a local coffee shop. Her eyes widened as I laid out my vision for the space. "You're serious?" she asked, clutching her coffee cup. "You'd really give local artists dedicated studio space?" "Not give, rent, but at below market rates, plus shared resources, marketing support and a built-in community." I slid the proposal across the table. "You'd be our anchor tenant." "This is..." She blinked back tears. "This is exactly what I've been dreaming of, but couldn't afford on my own." "I know, that's why we're building it." I thought of all the times Mum had dismissed my ideas. Sometimes you have to create what you wish existed. My phone buzzed yet again. This time it was Layla. "Mum's worried about you. You never come around anymore. The house renovations are almost done. Don't you want to see?" I typed back, "Busy with work, maybe next week." Looking up, I caught Amelia studying the architectural renderings. "When can you start?" she asked. "Construction begins next month. We should be ready for move-in within 4 months. "Count me in," she said firmly, pulling out her checkbook for the deposit. That evening, I stood outside my first property, watching the contractors finish up for the day. Nicole appeared beside me, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You know," she said, handing me one, "when Michelle first told me about your plan, I thought it was just revenge real estate." I sipped my coffee, watching the sunset paint the buildings in gold. Maybe it started that way. But now? Now it's about building something meaningful, something Grandma would be proud of. I turned to her. "Speaking of which, How's the offer on the third property coming along? Nicole grinned. They accepted this morning. Congratulations. You're about to own the entire block, except for one house in the middle. I looked over at Grandma's house, where Layla's kids were playing in what used to be the rose garden. That's okay. They have no idea they're about to be surrounded by something amazing. My phone buzzed with a text from Michelle. Your mum's asking questions about your secret project. What should I tell her? I smiled and typed back, Tell her I'm still finding myself. She'll love that. Looking up at my growing empire, I felt Grandma's presence stronger than ever. Just wait, I whispered to the evening air. This is only the beginning. The construction dust had barely settled when Amelia sold her first piece from her new studio. I watched her wrap the intricate necklace for a customer, her hands steady, but her eyes glistening. I can't believe this is real, she said after the customer left. 3 sales in one day, Samara. That's more than I used to make in a month working from my garage. I smiled, remembering Grandma's words about joy multiplying. Just wait until the other studios are filled. We're creating a destination here. The bell above the door chimed as Nicole walked in, waving a folder. Guess who just got approved for the business district rezoning? No way! I grabbed the folder, scanning the documents. This means we can move forward with the cafe and workshop spaces. All approved. And Nicole paused dramatically. You made the shortlist for the Young Entrepreneur Award. The ceremony's next month. My celebration was interrupted by my phone ringing. Layla. I hesitated before answering. Where are you? She demanded. Mum's birthday dinner is in an hour. My stomach dropped. I'd completely forgotten. I'm sorry, I got caught up with your secret internet business, Layla scoffed. Just be here. Mum's already upset you missed the housewarming party. After hanging up, I turned to Nicole and Amelia. I have to go. Can you handle the contractor meeting tomorrow morning? Go, Nicole said. We've got this. But Samara, they're going to find out eventually. I grabbed my keys, already dreading the evening ahead. Not until everything's perfect. 30 minutes later, I walked into my childhood home, where Mum was holding court in the living room. Finally, Mum exclaimed. We were starting to think you'd forgotten how to find us. Happy birthday, Mum. I handed her a carefully wrapped package. Sorry I'm late. Work's been busy. Oh yes, your computer job, she waved dismissively. Layla, tell everyone about your promotion. I sat through dinner, picking at my food while Layla detailed her new executive position. Mum beamed with pride, barely noticing when I received an urgent text from Craig. Major developer interested in touring the properties tomorrow. This could be huge for the project. Samara, Mum's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. Are you even listening? Layla was asking about your little online business. I looked up to find everyone staring at me. It's going well. Actually, She's probably still playing with her website stuff, Layla interrupted. Remember when she thought she could make a living selling things online? That was 10 years ago, I said quietly, thinking of the 7-figure revenue my little business generated last year. Well, at least you're keeping busy, Mum said, though you really should consider a real job like your sister. Security is important at your age. My phone buzzed again, this time a photo from Amelia showing a sold-out sign on her studio door. I smiled, remembering the tears in her eyes when she'd first seen the space. What's so interesting on your phone? Layla peered over. Another cat video? I locked the screen quickly. Just work stuff. After dinner, I escaped to the backyard, seeking refuge in the familiar space. The rose garden was gone, replaced by plastic playground equipment. My chest tightened at the sight. Different, isn't it? Mum's voice came from behind me. Layla's really made this place her own. Yeah, she has. I touched the fence where Grandma's climbing roses used to be. Everything changes, I guess. Speaking of change, Mum crossed her arms. What's really going on with you? All these mysterious meetings, never around anymore. I considered telling her everything about the properties, the business incubator, the award nomination. Instead, I said, "Just trying to find my path, Mum, like you always wanted." Back in my car, I called Michelle. I almost told them tonight. "Why didn't you?" I started the engine, looking at the lights coming on in my properties surrounding Grandma's house. "Because they're not ready to see me succeed on my own terms." "The developer meeting tomorrow might change everything," Michelle reminded me. "You can't keep this quiet much longer." I know. I pulled away from the curb, watching Layla's perfect life through the windows. But when they find out, I want it to be impossible to dismiss. My phone lit up with a message from Nicole. "Chamber of Commerce wants to feature our Women's Business Hub in their annual report. Ready to go public?" I smiled, thinking of Mum's dismissive wave and Layla's condescending smile. "Not yet," I typed back, "but soon, very soon." The streetlights illuminated my growing empire as I drove home, each window representing another dream taking flight. Grandma would have understood. Sometimes the sweetest success is the one nobody sees coming. "The offer is substantial," Craig said, sliding the developer's proposal across his desk. 5 times what you've invested so far. They want the entire block." I stared at the number, remembering Mum's words about real jobs. "And if I say no? They'll likely go higher." Craig leaned back. "But that's not why you're hesitating, is it?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A group text from Mum. "Family reunion this Saturday. No excuses, Samara. Everyone's asking about you." "Perfect timing," I muttered, showing Craig the message. "They still think I'm playing around with websites, and now I have to decide whether to sell a multi-million-dollar development." The door opened, and Nicole burst in, waving a newspaper. We made the front page of the business section. "Local entrepreneur transforms historic district into women's business hub." My heart stopped. Please tell me they didn't use my name. "Relax," Nicole handed me the paper. "They respected your wishes. But Samara, you're going to be speaking at the Chamber of Commerce next month. People will know." I skimmed the article, relief turning to pride as I read about Amelia's success story and the waiting list for studio space. Maybe it's time they did know. Saturday arrived too quickly. I pulled up to Layla's house, Grandma's house, where cars already lined the street. Through the window, I could see Mom holding court in the living room. "There's my mysterious sister," Layla called out as I entered. "Finally decided to join the land of the living." "Been busy," I said, accepting her air kiss. "How's the house?" "Perfect, now that we've modernized everything, though the neighborhood's getting weird, all these artsy shops popping up everywhere." I bit back a smile. "Really? I hadn't noticed." "Samara!" Mum's voice carried across the room. "Come tell everyone about your internet hobby. Your cousin Janet's son is good with computers too." I walked over, counting to 10 silently. "Actually, Mum, it's not just—" "She makes little websites," Mum explained to the relatives, "while Layla here just made partner at her firm." "Speaking of success," Layla chimed in, "we're thinking of buying the house next door when that weird art gallery moves out. Turn it into a proper family compound." I choked on my drink. "The gallery's moving." "Well, not yet," Layla smirked. "But once we make an offer, I'm sure they'll see reason. That whole business looks shaky anyway." My phone buzzed. A text from Amelia. "Just sold a $5,000 commission piece. The gallery's booked solid for next month's showcase." "Everything okay?" Mum asked, noticing my expression. "You look flushed." "Fine," I managed. "Just work stuff." "Oh, your little website things." Aunt Susan patted my hand. "You know, the grocery store is hiring if you need something more stable." The doorbell rang, saved by Craig's perfect timing. "Sorry to interrupt," he said smoothly, "but we need Ms. Morris's signature on some urgent documents." "Now?" Mum frowned. We're having a family gathering. It's fine, I stood up. This will just take a minute. Outside, Craig handed me a folder. The developers doubled their offer. They know about the Chamber of Commerce speech and want to close before it goes public. I looked through Grandma's front window at my family, then at the thriving businesses surrounding them. Tell them no. No. Samara, this is not about money, I finished. Look at what we've built here. Every woman in those buildings has a story like mine. Someone told them they couldn't, shouldn't, or weren't enough. Now they're proving everyone wrong. Craig nodded slowly. The press will be at the chamber speech. Your family will find out everything. Good. I watched Layla gesturing at the gallery through the window, probably already planning her expansion. Let them see exactly what their little website girl has been up to. Back inside, Mum cornered me by the stairs. What was that about? What documents? Just business stuff, Mom. Business? She laughed. Samara, making websites for people isn't a real business. When are you going to... Mom, Layla called out, come look at these renovation plans. We're thinking of expanding once we buy out these ridiculous shops. I watched them huddle over the plans, completely oblivious to who actually owned those ridiculous shops. My phone buzzed again. Nicole this time. Local Business Weekly wants to do a cover story. Ready to show your family who's boss? Looking at Mum and Layla plotting their takeover of my empire, I typed back, schedule the interview. It's time they learned what their little website girl can do. The karma of their dismissal was about to come full circle, and I couldn't wait to see their faces when they realised who really owned the neighbourhood. You want me to what? I stared at Nicole across the conference table. Have lunch with your mum and sister, she repeated, at Amelia's new cafe. The Business Weekly photographer wants candid shots of you in your element, and family adds a personal touch. I laughed humorlessly. You do remember these are the same people who think I play with websites all day? Exactly, Michelle chimed in. Time to show them the empire you've built right under their noses. After some convincing, I texted Mom. Lunch tomorrow? There's a new cafe I want to try. Finally, she replied. Layla can join too. She's been wanting to check out these new businesses anyway. Scope out the competition before we expand. The next day, I arrived early to find Amelia arranging fresh flowers on the tables. Her cafe, connected to her jewellery studio, had become the heart of our little community. Ready for this? She asked, straightening my favourite table's centrepiece. As I'll ever be. I checked my phone. They should be here any... Samara, Mum's voice carried across the space. This place is... interesting. Very artsy. Layla followed, eyeing the exposed brick walls and local artwork. Bit pretentious, isn't it? But the location is perfect for our expansion plans. Welcome to Bloom Cafe, Amelia approached with menus. I'm the owner. Please sit anywhere. Mum barely glanced at her. Yes, well, we won't be staying long, just humouring my daughter's fascination with these pop-up shops. We settled at my usual table, where I could see the entire bustling cafe. Women with laptops collaborated in corners, artists sketched at window seats, and the lunch rush was building. So, Layla stirred her coffee. Have you thought about getting a real job yet? These little businesses won't last once we develop the area properly. Before I could respond, Nicole walked in with a photographer. Mum frowned. What's going on? Miss Morris, the photographer approached our table. Could we get a few shots of you with your family for the Business Weekly cover? Cover? Mum looked confused. What cover? The feature on successful women entrepreneurs, Nicole explained smoothly. Samara's being honoured for transforming this neighbourhood. Layla's coffee cup clattered against its saucer. What are you talking about? I took a deep breath. Remember those little websites I make? That was just the beginning. I own this building, and the one next door, and the one after that. Don't be ridiculous, Mum scoffed. You can't afford— Actually, Nicole interrupted, Samara owns the entire block, except for your house, of course. Her online business generated enough capital to— 7 figures last year, I added quietly. Those little websites paid for all of this. The colour drained from Layla's face. But we were going to expand, buy out these properties. Can't buy what isn't for sale. I gestured around the cafe. Every woman here has a story like mine. Someone told them they weren't enough. Now they're thriving. Mum's hands trembled as she set down her cup. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I met her eyes. You never took me seriously before. Why start now? The photographer snapped photos as realization dawned on their faces. Amelia approached with our lunch, each plate artfully arranged. Your usual, Samara? She smiled. I added extra rose petals to the salad, just like your grandmother used to love. Mum's head snapped up. You knew my mother? Samara told me all about her, Amelia said. That's why we named the cafe Bloom, after her rose garden, the one that used to be next door. Layla pushed her plate away. I can't believe— Believe it, Nicole said, laying out the Business Weekly proofs. Samara's created something remarkable here. The Chamber of Commerce speech next week will make it official. Speech? Mum whispered. About empowering local women entrepreneurs, I explained. Turns out my little hobby had bigger plans. The photographer captured Mum's stunned expression, Layla's deflated posture, and my quiet confidence. Perfect for the cover story. From overlooked to overachieving, how one woman built an empire of empowerment. I need some air, Layla stood abruptly. This is too much. Mum remained seated, staring at the business photos spread before her. All this time, while we were dismissing you, I was building something beautiful, I finished, just like Grandma taught me. As they left the cafe, visibly shaken, Michelle squeezed my shoulder. How does it feel? I watched through the window as they looked up and down the street, really seeing my creation for the first time. Like karma just served the perfect lunch. My phone buzzed. A message from Craig. Another developer called, double the last offer. I typed back while watching my family retreat to Grandma's house, now surrounded by my success. Still not for sale. Some things are worth more than money. The roses might be gone from Grandma's garden, but her legacy was blooming stronger than ever, right under their noses. The Business Weekly issue hit newsstands on a Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Have you seen your mother's Facebook post? Michelle's voice was tense. You need to check this out. I pulled up Mum's page to find a long public rant. My daughter has been secretly buying up property around our family home. Instead of supporting her sister's dreams of expansion, she's turned our quiet neighbourhood into some kind of feminist business experiment. I don't even recognise her anymore. Feminist business experiment? I laughed despite myself. That's actually not a bad tagline. Samara, this is serious, Michelle insisted. Layla's commenting on it too. Before I could respond, Nicole burst into my office. The Chamber of Commerce called. They've moved your speech to the main auditorium. Ticket requests are overwhelming. Perfect timing, I muttered, showing her Mum's post. They're trying to paint me as the villain. Then let's show them the hero you really are. Nicole pulled out her tablet. Look at these numbers. Employment up 40% in the area. Property values increased. Crime down. You're not destroying the neighbourhood. You're saving it. My phone buzzed. Layla calling. After 3 days of silence, she finally wanted to talk. I took a deep breath and answered. How could you do this to me? She demanded. You knew I wanted to expand. And you knew I loved this neighbourhood, I replied calmly. You just never thought I'd do anything about it. Mum's devastated. She keeps saying she doesn't understand where she went wrong with you. I stood up, walking to my office window that overlooked the bustling street below. Wrong? Look outside, Layla. Look at what I've built. What exactly is wrong about that? It's not about the businesses, she snapped. It's about you going behind our backs. Like you went behind my back with Grandma's house. The words slipped out before I could stop them. At least I built something new instead of destroying what was already there. Silence filled the line. Finally, Layla spoke quietly. The chamber speech is tomorrow night. Are you really going through with this? Front row seats are reserved for family, I said. Whether you use them is up to you. After hanging up, I walked down to Amelia's cafe. The lunch rush was in full swing, every table filled with women working, creating, collaborating. Your usual? Amelia asked, already preparing my tea. Actually, I need your help, all of you. I looked around at the women who'd become my true family. Tomorrow night, I want to show my mother and sister what we've really built here. The next evening, I stood backstage at the Chamber of Commerce, peering through the curtain. The auditorium was packed, but my eyes fixed on the front row. 2 empty seats glared back at me. They're not coming, I told Michelle. Wait, she pointed to the entrance. Mum and Layla were being shown to their seats, both looking uncomfortable under the bright lights. The chamber president introduced me, reading off our accomplishments: job creation, community development, economic growth. With each point, I watched Mum's expression shift from dismissive to confused to something like wonder. I stepped up to the podium, my hands steady. Everyone expects me to talk about business strategy tonight. Instead, I want to tell you about my grandmother's roses. The room fell silent. In the front row, Mum sat up straighter. She taught me that beauty multiplies when you share it, that success isn't about what you own, but what you create. I gestured to the women filling the seats. Every person here has a story about someone telling them they couldn't, shouldn't, or weren't enough. Tonight, they're proving those voices wrong. Amelia stood up first, then Nicole, then others. Dozens of women whose lives had been transformed by our little feminist business experiment. This isn't about revenge, I continued, meeting Mum's eyes. It's about legacy, about taking what someone taught you about love and growth and planting those seeds where they can flourish. Tears rolled down Mum's cheeks as Amelia walked forward, presenting her with a specially crafted necklace, roses crafted in silver and gold, wrapped around a key. What's this? Mum whispered. The key to our new community garden, I explained, built where Grandma's roses once grew. Because some traditions shouldn't be lost, they should be shared. Layla stared at the key, then at me. You're not selling, even with the developers. Some things are worth more than money, I said. Some things are about family, all kinds of family. As applause filled the auditorium, I watched understanding finally dawn in their eyes. They'd tried to write my story for me, never realizing I was writing my own all along, and this chapter was just the beginning. After the speech, Mum found me in the reception area, clutching the rose necklace like a lifeline. Can we talk? Privately? I led her to my office, the one with the view of what used to be Grandma's garden. The construction of the new community garden was already underway, soft lights illuminating the progress. I don't know where to start, Mum said, sinking into a chair. All this time, when we thought you were just playing with websites, I finished, pouring us both tea in Grandma's old cups I kept in my office. I was wrong, she whispered, her hands trembling around the delicate china. So wrong, but why didn't you tell us? Would it have mattered? I set my cup down. The day you gave Grandma's house to Layla, you told me to let the favourite have it. Those words changed everything. A knock interrupted us. Layla stood in the doorway, mascara streaked down her cheeks. I heard what you said about Grandma's roses, about legacy. Come in, I said, pulling up another chair. The playground, Layla's voice cracked. I didn't even think about what those roses meant to you. I wanted to make the house mine." "Like Mom made everything yours?" The words came out sharper than intended. Mum flinched. "I never meant to." "Yes, you did," I cut her off. "You always meant to favour Layla. You just never expected it to backfire." "Backfire?" Layla looked around the office, taking in the awards, the business plans, the view of my growing empire. "Is that what this is? Revenge?" "No." I stood and walked to the window. "This is what happens when you underestimate someone for too long. They might just surprise you." Nicole appeared in the doorway with Amelia. "Sorry to interrupt, but the reporters want final comments about the community garden project." Mom stood up suddenly. "The garden? You're really building it, even after we destroyed the original?" "Come see." I led them down to the construction site, where the outline of the new garden was taking shape. "It's going to be different from Grandma's, but that's the point. We're not replacing what was lost. We're creating something new." Amelia touched one of the marked plots. "Each business owner gets a section to tend. We're planting roses, but also herbs for the cafe, flowers for my jewellery designs, vegetables for the community kitchen." "Community kitchen?" Layla asked. "Where local women can start food businesses without the overhead of a full restaurant," I explained. "Just like Grandma taught me. Create something beautiful, share it with others." And watch joy multiply," Mum finished, tears flowing freely now. "She always said that." "I remember," I said softly. "Even when you thought I wasn't paying attention, I was learning. From both of you, actually." "From us?" Layla looked surprised. "You taught me persistence. Mum taught me determination. I just applied those lessons differently than you expected." Mum reached for my hand. "I'm so sorry, Samara, for making you feel less than, for not seeing me," I completed her thought. "But you see me now, don't you?" She nodded, looking around at the thriving businesses, the construction, the women coming and going even at this late hour. "I see you, finally." "The garden opening is next month," Amelia mentioned carefully. "We're naming it after your grandmother." Layla wiped her eyes. Could I help? Maybe tend a small plot? I studied my sister, seeing vulnerability replace arrogance for the first time. "There's room for everyone here. That's the whole point." Mum fingered the rose necklace. "Your grandmother would be so proud, not just of what you built, but how you built it. With purpose, with vision, with love," I added, even when it didn't feel like it. As we stood there, surrounded by the framework of new beginnings, I felt the weight of old resentments finally lifting. Mum and Layla saw me now, really saw me, and that was worth more than any revenge could have been. "So," Layla said hesitantly, "what happens next?" I smiled, thinking of all the plans still in motion, all the women waiting for their chance to bloom. "Next, we grow, together this time." Mum squeezed my hand, understanding finally dawning in her eyes. "Together," she repeated, looking at her two daughters, not favourite and forgotten, but equal at last. Above us, stars twinkled like Grandma's knowing eyes, watching her legacy flourish in ways none of us could have imagined. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's growing into something so magnificent that those who doubted you have no choice but to believe. The morning of the garden opening, I found Mom already there, kneeling in the dirt with gardening gloves that matched mine. "Couldn't sleep," she explained, carefully positioning a rosebush. "I kept thinking about all the mornings I watched your grandmother do this exact same thing." "Me too." I knelt beside her, inhaling the familiar scent of fresh earth and roses. "Though I never thought I'd see you gardening." "People can surprise you." She sat back on her heels, studying my faith. "Like my daughter who built an empire while I was too blind to see it." The sound of car doors made us turn. Layla was helping her kids out of their car, all of them wearing matching gardening aprons. "We came to help," her youngest announced, waving a tiny watering can. "Perfect timing," I smiled, pointing to the children's section we'd designed. "That whole area needs watering." As the kids ran off, Layla joined us, looking uncertain. "I brought Grandma's old gardening tools, found them in the basement. Thought, maybe—" "They belong here," I finished, taking the worn toolbox, "just like we all do." Throughout the morning, women arrived, business owners, community members, local leaders. Each brought something to plant, creating a tapestry of colours and textures across the garden beds. Amelia set up a small table displaying jewellery inspired by the garden. "First collection in our new community space," she announced proudly. "Each piece tells a story." Like this one, Mum picked up a necklace featuring intertwined roses. "It reminds me of how your grandmother's roses used to climb the trellis." "That's the Legacy collection," Amelia explained. "Samara helped design it." Mum's eyes welled up. "It's beautiful." "Ha! Speaking of legacy," Layla called from across the garden, "come see what the kids found." We gathered around a small stone marker, partially hidden by new plantings. My breath caught. It was Grandma's original garden marker, saved from the old garden. "I thought this was lost," I whispered. "I saved it," Layla admitted. "Couldn't bring myself to throw it away. Maybe I knew all along we were wrong to destroy her garden." Nicole appeared with the local news crew. "Ready for the official opening?" As cameras rolled, I stood between Mum and Layla, facing our community. This garden represents more than just plants and flowers. It's about growth, not just of roses, but of relationships, businesses, and dreams. "It's about family," Mum added unexpectedly, taking my hand. "All kinds of family." "And second chances," Layla chimed in, squeezing my other hand. The ribbon cutting was followed by a tour of the surrounding businesses. I watched Mum's face as she really saw what I'd built. Not just successful shops, but a thriving ecosystem of support and opportunity. "Your grandmother's roses might be gone," she said quietly, "but her spirit is everywhere here." Back in the garden, Layla's kids were showing their mother how to properly water seedlings. "Aunt Samara taught us," they proclaimed proudly. Aunt Samara teaches us all," Amelia smiled, joining us with cups of tea from her cafe. "That's what makes this place special." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across our new garden, Mum pulled me aside. "I have something for you." She pressed a small key into my hand. "What's this?" "The key to your grandmother's house," she said. "Layla and I talked. She's keeping her home, but the garden guest house, the one you always loved, it should be yours." "Mum, I don't need—" "It's not about need," she interrupted. "It's about belonging. You belonged there then, and you belong here now. We just took too long to see it." The evening wound down with all of us, family, friends, community members, sharing stories and plans for the garden's future. Layla's kids fell asleep under the new pergola, surrounded by the scent of fresh roses. "You know what Grandma would say about all this?" I asked, looking around at our gathered family, both blood and chosen. "Create something beautiful," Mum started. "Share it with others," Layla continued. "And watch joy multiply," we finished together. As stars appeared above our new garden, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about growing beyond what anyone thought possible. In trying to prove my worth, I'd created something far more valuable than success. A place where everyone could bloom. The old roses might be gone, but new ones were already reaching for the sky, their roots deep in soil enriched by legacy, forgiveness, and love. Just as Grandma would have wanted.
The moment I finally landed my dream job should have been the happiest day of my life. Instead, I found myself screaming into my steering wheel in the parking lot of Morgan Stanley, mascara running down my face, while my mother's words echoed in my head, "Oh, honey, I sold Cooper. But don't worry, I got us both tickets for a Caribbean cruise. My name is Hadley, and I just became the youngest financial analyst in my division. The promotion I'd been working towards for 3 years finally came through, and all I wanted was to go home and celebrate with my best friend in the whole world, my golden retriever, Cooper. He'd been there through every late night of studying, every rejection letter, every moment of doubt. "This isn't happening," I whispered, fumbling for my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial Pearl's number. "Hey, superstar, how's the first day going?" Pearl's cheerful voice came through the speaker. "She sold him," my voice cracked. "My mother sold Cooper." "She did what?" Pearl's tone shifted instantly from celebration to rage. "Tell me everything, now!" I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. She called during my lunch break, all excited about some cruise deal she got from her friend Stephen. Said she needed quick cash for the deposit, and since I was always too busy with work to properly care for a dog anyway, she did me a favour and sold him. "Oh my God, Hadley! That's not just crossing a line, that's obliterating it. Where is Cooper now?" "I don't know," I choked out. "She won't tell me who bought him. Says it's for the best if I don't try to contact them." My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Don't forget dinner tonight, celebrating your promotion and our upcoming cruise." "I can't believe she expects me to celebrate with her," I said to Pearl, "like she didn't just sell my dog without my permission." "Then don't," Pearl said firmly. "Come to my place instead. We'll figure this out." "I have to confront her," I replied, wiping my eyes. "I need to know who has Cooper." "Want me to come with you?" "No, I need to do this alone." I started my car. "But can you be on standby?" "Always. And Hadley, don't let her twist this around. She's wrong, and what she did is illegal." I drove to my mother's house, the same house I grew up in, with its perfectly manicured lawn and gleaming windows. My mother, Michelle, opened the door, wearing her signature pearls and a bright smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "There's my successful girl." She went in for a hug, but I stepped back. "Where's Cooper?" I demanded. "Oh, honey, we've been through this. He went to a lovely family with 3 children. He'll be so much happier there." She waved dismissively. "Now come see the cruise itinerary." "Mum, Cooper was my dog. I paid for him. I trained him. His microchip is in my name. What you did is theft." She rolled her eyes. "Don't be so dramatic. I'm your mother. Everything you have is because of me. Besides, you're far too busy for a dog now. Stephen got us an amazing deal on this cruise, and—" "I don't care about the cruise," I shouted, surprising us both. "I want my dog back." "Lower your voice," she hissed, glancing at the neighbours' houses. "You're making a scene." "Good. Maybe the neighbours should know what you did. Maybe everyone should know how you sold your daughter's dog for cruise tickets." "I did you a favour," she said, her voice taking on that familiar condescending tone. "You'll thank me later. Now, are you coming in for dinner or not?" I stared at her, really seeing her for the first time. The perfectly coiffed hair, the expensive clothes, the practiced smile. It was all a facade hiding something ugly underneath. "No," I said quietly. "I'm not coming in, but I want you to know something, Mum. I'm going to find Cooper, and when I do, you're going to regret ever thinking you could get away with this." Her smile faltered slightly. "Don't threaten me, Hadley. It's not becoming." "It's not a threat," I replied, turning to leave. "It's a promise." As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed again. Another text from my mother. "You're being childish. Call me when you've calmed down." I deleted the message and called Pearl instead. "Hey," I said when she answered. "Remember that time in college when you said I should stand up to my mother more?" "Yeah? Well, I'm ready now, and I'm going to need your help." "Your mother did the exact same thing with your college fund," Pearl said, sliding a glass of wine across her kitchen counter to me. "Remember? She used it for that spa retreat in Arizona." I took a long sip, memories flooding back. "Yeah, but that was different. I had scholarships by then." "It's not different," Pearl insisted, pulling out her laptop. "It's a pattern. She takes what matters to you and turns it into something for herself, and we're going to prove it." I'd been at Pearl's apartment for hours, trying to piece together a plan to find Cooper. The sun had long since set, and my phone was filled with ignored texts from my mother. "First things first," Pearl said, typing furiously. "Cooper's microchip." You said it's registered to you. Yes, but no buts. That's our leverage. She spun the laptop toward me. Look up the registry. Report him as stolen. As I logged into the Pet Microchip website, my phone rang. It was Caden, my new boss. Hadley, sorry to call so late, but I noticed you seemed off during the afternoon meeting. Everything okay? I glanced at Pearl, who nodded encouragingly. Actually, no. My mother sold my dog without my permission today. I'm trying to get him back. There was a pause. That's actually illegal. Do you need some time off to sort this out? No, I said quickly. Work is the only normal thing I have right now, but thank you. After hanging up, Pearl was grinning. See, even your boss thinks your mum is crazy. Now tell me about this Stephen person. The one with the cruise tickets? He owns the cruise line. Mum met him at some charity gala last year. They've been friends ever since. I made air quotes around the word friends. Perfect. Pearl opened a new browser tab. Let's see what we can find about him. As she searched, my phone buzzed with another text from my mother. Stephen says he can upgrade us to a suite if we book by tomorrow. Don't throw away this opportunity because of a dog. God, she's unbelievable, I muttered, showing Pearl the text. Wait a minute. Pearl squinted at her screen. Stephen Rose. Isn't he the one who got caught in that scandal with the charity funds last year? What scandal? It was all over the local news. Something about misappropriated donations. The charges were dropped, but... She turned the laptop to show me a news article. And my mother's friends with him? I leaned closer to read. Actually, I remember now. Mum used to work with someone who was involved in that investigation. What was his name? Dan Edwards. Pearl's eyes lit up. Can you contact him? Maybe. He and Mum had a huge falling out right after the scandal broke. I pulled out my phone and opened LinkedIn. Here he is. He works at a law firm downtown now. Message him, Pearl urged. He might know something we can use. As I typed out a message to Dan, Pearl continued digging. Your mum's been busy, she said after a while. Look at all these charity event photos. She's on the board of 3 different organisations. Yeah, she loves the attention. I rolled my eyes. Always has to be the centre of... Wait, go back to that photo. Pearl scrolled back. There was my mother standing between Stephen and a familiar face I couldn't quite place. That's William something, Pearl said. He's tagged in the photo, William Fowler. He runs some tech startup. My heart stopped. Pearl, look at his profile picture. There, on William's profile, was a recent photo of him with a golden retriever. My golden retriever. Cooper. Found you, I whispered. Holy shit, Pearl breathed. Hadley, according to this, William is an investor in Stephen's cruise line. The pieces started falling into place. So, my mother sold Cooper to her friend's business partner for cruise tickets. This is good, Pearl said, grabbing my arm. This means we can track him down. And look, there's a charity gala next weekend. All these people will be there. I stared at the event page, an idea forming, including my mother. According to the RSVP list, yes. Why? I pulled out my phone and found Dan Edwards' profile again. Because I think it's time everyone knew exactly what kind of person my mother is. And Dan might be just the person to help us do it. Pearl closed her laptop, a concerned look crossing her face. Hadley, what are you planning? Something my mother taught me, I said, hitting send on my message to Dan. That image is everything, and it's time to shatter hers. Dan Edwards agreed to meet me at a quiet coffee shop downtown, far from my mother's usual haunts. He looked older than I remembered, his hair now completely grey, but his eyes still held that sharp intelligence I recalled from my childhood. Hadley, he said, standing to greet me, you look just like your father. I settled into the chair across from him. That would drive my mother crazy to hear. Good, he smiled grimly. Now tell me why you suddenly want to know about the charity scandal after all this time. I took a deep breath. My mother sold my dog to William Fowler in exchange for cruise tickets from Stephen. Dan's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. She did what? I need leverage, I said. Something to make them give Cooper back, and I know you know things about my mother and Stephen that never made it to the papers. He set his cup down slowly. Your mother? She always was good at making things disappear. Money, problems, people who got in her way. What do you mean? The charity scandal wasn't just about missing donations, Dan leaned forward. It was about systematic fraud. Stephen would inflate the value of cruise packages donated to charity auctions. Your mother would arrange for specific buyers to win them at discount prices. The difference would be split between them. My phone buzzed. Another text from my mother. Hadley, darling, the cruise deposit is due tomorrow. Don't make me lose this opportunity. I showed Dan the message. She's still at it, isn't she? Let me guess. Stephen offered her an amazing deal. Dan's voice dripped with sarcasm. A sweet upgrade if we book immediately. Classic pressure tactic. They use the same playbook every time. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through some files. I kept everything, you know. All the evidence. The DA didn't pursue it because bigger fish came along, but what? But the statute of limitations hasn't run out. He showed me some documents. These show your mother's signature on fraudulent paperwork. She claimed these cruise packages were worth triple their actual value. My hands shook as I read. This would ruin her. Yes, it would. Dan sat back. Question is, are you prepared for what that means? Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Pearl. Hadley, you need to check your email right now, she said without preamble. William Fowler just posted photos of Cooper on Instagram. He's taking him on the same cruise your mum's booking. I quickly opened my email to find Pearl's screenshots. There was Cooper, sitting on a luxury yacht, wearing a new collar that probably cost more than my monthly rent. The cruise is next week, Pearl continued. He's bragging about some VIP package he got through Stephen. Dan was watching me carefully. The gala is this weekend, he said. 3 days before the cruise. Perfect timing to expose everything. But will it be enough to get Cooper back? I asked. Maybe not alone, Dan admitted. But I have something else. Something your mother doesn't know I know about. He pulled out another file. Remember when your father's life insurance policy mysteriously paid out to her instead of you? My heart stopped. She told me Dad changed the beneficiary before he died. He didn't. She forged his signature. I have proof. The coffee shop suddenly felt very small. Why? Why didn't you ever say anything? Because by the time I found out, the scandal had broken, and your mother had made sure I was discredited. He smiled sadly. But now? Now we can use it all. My phone buzzed again, this time with an email from William Fowler himself. Looking forward to meeting you at the gala. Your mother speaks highly of you. He doesn't know, I realised. William doesn't know Cooper was stolen. No, Dan agreed. And I bet good money Stephen didn't tell him where those discounted cruise tickets really came from either. I looked at the documents in front of me, then at the photo of Cooper on William's Instagram. The gala's in 3 days. Yes, and you'll help me? Dan gathered his files. Your mother ruined my career to save herself, cost me my reputation, my savings, everything. So yes, I'll help you. But Hadley, he caught my eye. Be sure you're ready for the fallout. Your mother won't go down quietly. I know, I said, thinking of Cooper, but neither will I. As I left the coffee shop, I called Pearl. Book us tickets for the gala, I said. And remember that black dress you said was too dramatic for any normal occasion? Yeah? Wear it. Because this isn't going to be a normal charity gala. This is going to be a reckoning. The next 2 days at work were a blur of spreadsheets and stolen phone calls. I was in the middle of a budget meeting when Stephen himself called. Hadley, your mother tells me you're hesitating about the cruise. His voice boomed through my phone as I stood in the hallway. Let me sweeten the deal. I'll upgrade both cabins to full suites, ocean view. Both cabins? I asked, playing dumb. Yes, yours and William's. He's bringing his new dog. Wonderful animal, by the way. Your mother mentioned you love dogs. My knuckles turned white around my phone. Did she? Listen, come to the gala tomorrow night. We'll talk details then. Your mother says you're quite the financial whiz. Maybe we could discuss some investment opportunities too. After hanging up, I found Caden waiting by my office door. Everything okay? He asked. You've seemed distracted. I'm sorry, Don't apologise, he cut me off. I overheard your conversation. Stephen Rose, huh? Be careful there. His company's financials are creative, let's say. I looked at him sharply. What do you mean? Let's just say there's a reason we've never done business with them. He paused. Need tomorrow night off? For the gala? How did you... Small world, corporate finance. He smiled. Go. Handle your business. But Hadley, whatever you're planning, make it count. That evening, Pearl and I met Dan at his office to finalise our plan. The wall behind his desk was covered in photos and documents connected by red string. "Your mother's been busy since the scandal," Dan said, pointing to recent photos. "She's worked her way onto 3 charity boards. Each one has contracted exclusively with Stephen's Cruise Line for their fundraising events." Pearl whistled. "That's not suspicious at all." "The pattern's the same every time," Dan continued. "Inflated valuations, predetermined winners, kickbacks disguised as consulting fees." He tapped a document. "And William's company has been their biggest donor." "He's being played too," I said softly. "Exactly." Dan handed me a USB drive. "Everything's here. Financial records, forged documents, the life insurance fraud, all of it." Pearl squeezed my hand. "Are you sure about this? Once we do this—" "She sold Cooper," I said firmly. "She sold my dog to fund her fraud scheme. Yes, I'm sure." My phone chimed with a text from my mother. "Darling, what are you wearing tomorrow night? Please tell me not that dreadful black dress from Pearl's birthday." Pearl snorted. "She really does hate that dress." "Good," I replied, "because that's exactly what I'm wearing." Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I scrolled through William's Instagram, looking at photos of Cooper. He seemed happy at least, well-fed, loved. My phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. "Hello? Is this Hadley?" A male voice. "This is William. William Fowler." My heart stopped. "Yes?" "I hope you don't mind. Stephen gave me your number. Listen, I know this might seem strange, but your mother mentioned you used to have a golden retriever." I sat up straight. "Yes." "It's just Cooper. That's what I named him. He came with this collar. It had a tag with a different name. Max, I think. And when I tried to register his microchip—" "It was already registered," I finished. A long pause. "Hadley, did your mother sell me your dog?" "Yes," I whispered. "She did." "Jesus Christ." He sounded genuinely shocked. I had no idea. I would never... "Look, we need to talk. At the gala?" "Yes," I said. "But William, don't tell my mother about this call." "Of course not. And Hadley, I'm so sorry." After hanging up, I called Pearl. "William knows," I said when she answered. "This changes things," she replied. "In a good way." "Yeah," I said, looking at Dan's USB drive on my nightstand. "It does." My phone buzzed one last time. Another text from my mother. "Stephen just called. Says you're interested in investing. So proud of you, darling. Finally thinking bigger than just that dog." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and started transferring Dan's files. Tomorrow night, everyone would see exactly how big my mother could think, and exactly how far I would go to get Cooper back. The ballroom of the Grand Hotel sparkled with crystal chandeliers and the fake smiles of Seattle's elite. Pearl and I arrived fashionably late, turning heads in our matching black dresses. "There's my girl!" My mother's voice carried across the room. She air-kissed my cheeks, then stepped back with a frown. "Oh, you wore the black dress." "You look lovely too, Mum," I said sweetly. "Is Stephen here?" "Of course. He's by the bar with William." She lowered her voice. "Such a catch, that William. Single, successful, and currently in possession of stolen property," Pearl muttered under her breath. My mother's eyes narrowed. "What was that, dear?" "Nothing." Pearl smiled brightly. "Just admiring the chandelier." We made our way to the bar, where Stephen was holding court with a group of investors. William stood slightly apart, looking uncomfortable in his tuxedo. When he saw me, his face drained of colour. "Hadley!" Stephen boomed. "The woman of the hour! William here was just telling me how excited he is to have you join us on the cruise. Weren't you, William?" William's grip tightened on his whiskey glass. "Actually, I needed to talk to Hadley about that." "Later," I said quietly. "Trust me." My mother appeared at Stephen's elbow. "Everyone, they're about to start the presentation. Stephen, darling, aren't you giving a speech?" "That's right." He straightened his tie. "Big announcement about our charitable giving programme." Pearl caught my eye and nodded. Right on cue, Dan walked in through the side door, laptop in hand. "Is everything ready?" I whispered to him as he passed. "All set. Just say the word." Stephen took the stage, tapping the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. As chairman of the Coastal Dreams Cruise Line, I'm thrilled to announce our most ambitious charitable giving programme yet." I felt a hand on my arm. William had moved closer. Hadley, about Cooper. Wait for it, I said, watching Stephen. Thanks to the tireless efforts of our board member Michelle, we've raised over $2 million for local charities this year alone. My mother beamed, soaking in the applause. I nodded to Dan, who pressed a button on his laptop. The presentation screen behind Stephen flickered. Suddenly, instead of his corporate logo, there were documents, financial records, forged signatures, photos of my mother accepting envelopes in parking lots. What's happening? Stephen fumbled with his notes. What's happening, I said loudly, stepping forward, is the truth. About the fraudulent valuations, the rigged auctions, the kickbacks. The room went dead silent. My mother's face turned pale. Hadley, she hissed, what are you doing? Showing everyone exactly who you are, Mum, including how you sold my dog to William here in exchange for discounted cruise tickets that were part of your latest scheme with Stephen. William stepped forward. Is this true? The cruise package you sold me? It's all true, Dan said, joining us. I have proof of everything, including what really happened to Hadley's father's life insurance policy. My mother's carefully constructed facade cracked. You ungrateful little... Mrs. Lucas, a stern voice cut through the chaos. A man in a dark suit approached, showing a badge. I'm Detective Roberts. We've been investigating these charity auctions for months. I'm afraid you'll need to come with me. This is ridiculous, Stephen sputtered. I've never... William, back me up here. But William was already pulling out his phone. Cooper's microchip registration, he said, showing it to the detective. It's still in Hadley's name. I had no idea he was stolen. Add theft to the charges, Detective Roberts said to his partner. As they led my mother and Stephen away, she turned to me one last time. I did everything for you. Everything. No, Mom. You did everything for yourself. Always. The room erupted in shocked whispers and hurried phone calls. Pearl appeared at my side with my coat. Ready to go? Almost. I turned to William. Cooper is at my house, he finished. With my housekeeper. Would you like to go see him? Now? 20 minutes later, I stood in William's driveway as a familiar golden blur came bounding toward me. Cooper! I fell to my knees as he crashed into me, his tail wagging furiously, covering my face in kisses. He never really settled in, William said, watching us. Now I know why. He was waiting for you. Pearl wiped tears from her eyes. Best revenge ever. It wasn't about revenge, I said, holding Cooper close. It was about justice. And coming home, my phone buzzed. A text from Caden. Saw the news. Take Monday off. You've earned it. I smiled, scratching behind Cooper's ears. Let's go home, boy. For real this time. The morning after the gala, my doorbell rang at 7 a.m. Cooper barked once, then wagged his tail as Pearl burst in with coffee and newspapers. Your front page news! She spread 3 different papers across my kitchen counter. Look at these headlines. Charity Gala Scandal Rocks, Seattle Elite, Cruise Line CEO arrested in fraud scheme, and my personal favourite. Daughter exposes mother's criminal enterprise over stolen dog. I sipped my coffee, scratching Cooper's head as he leaned against my leg. Have you heard from... your mother? Oh, just wait. Pearl pulled out her phone and played a voicemail. How dare you help her humiliate me? My mother's voice was shrill, even through the speaker. I'm facing criminal charges because my ungrateful daughter couldn't handle a simple business transaction. And you, Pearl, I always knew you were a bad influence. Delete, Pearl said cheerfully, cutting off the rest. She left me 6 more just like it. My phone rang. William. Hey, I answered. Thanks again for last night. Actually, I'm calling because there's something you should know, he sounded worried. Stephen's lawyers are trying to claim you orchestrated this whole thing to manipulate me and damage the company's reputation. Your mother's backing up their story. Of course she is, I sighed. But we have proof. That's just it, he cut in. I've been going through the company's books all night. There's so much more than what you exposed. I'm heading to the DA's office now to turn over everything. I thought you should know first. Thank you, I said softly. For everything. After hanging up, I found Pearl staring at her phone with wide eyes. What now? Your mum just posted on Facebook. It's wow. She handed me her phone. My mother's post was a masterpiece of manipulation. With a heavy heart, I must address the false accusations made by my daughter. As any mother knows, watching your child struggle with professional jealousy is heartbreaking. The dog in question was legally sold, and any implications of wrongdoing are simply a desperate attempt to... "She's really going to try to spin this?" I said in disbelief. "Of course she is," a familiar voice said. Dan stood in my doorway. I hadn't even heard him knock. "But she won't succeed. Not this time." He dropped a thick folder on my counter. "The DA wants to meet with you today. They're offering your mother a deal, but they need your testimony to nail Stephen and the others involved in the charity fraud." Cooper padded over to Dan, tail wagging. Dan knelt to pet him, then looked up at me. "You should know. They found offshore accounts, lots of them, including one with the money from your father's life insurance policy." My hands started shaking. Pearl grabbed them, steadying me. "She's going to jail, isn't she?" I whispered. "Most likely," Dan nodded. "The question is for how long? That depends partly on you." My phone buzzed again, a text from my mother. "Meet me at the house. We can fix this. Family first, remember?" "Don't go," Pearl said immediately. "She's right," Dan agreed. "Anything you say to her now could compromise the case." I looked at Cooper, remembering how it felt when she took him away. How many other things had she taken over the years? How many times had she justified her actions as mother knows best? "I have to go," I said finally. "Not to fix anything, but to end it, properly." "Then we're coming with you," Pearl declared. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to my mother's house. She opened the door wearing her signature pearls as if nothing had changed. "Darling, thank good... What are they doing here?" Her smile faltered at the sight of Pearl and Dan. "They're my witnesses," I said, walking past her into the house. Cooper stayed close to my side, his presence giving me strength. "Witnesses? Don't be dramatic. I taught you better than that." She tried to touch my arm, but I stepped back. "No, Mom. You taught me to lie, to manipulate, to take what I want regardless of who it hurts. But here's the thing." I met her eyes steadily. "I learned a different lesson instead." "And what's that?" she asked coldly. "That the truth always comes out. Always." I pulled out my phone and pressed record. "So, let's talk about Dad's life insurance policy and all those offshore accounts and how long you've really been working with Stephen." Her face went through a series of expressions: shock, anger, calculation, and finally, something that might have been respect. "Well," she said, smoothing her skirt, "I suppose you really are my daughter after all." "No," I replied. "I'm my father's daughter, and it's time you answered for everything you've done." The DA's office was cold and sterile, nothing like the warm, deceptive comfort of my mother's house. Cooper lay at my feet as I gave my official statement, his presence keeping me grounded. "And when did you first become aware of the fraudulent activities?" the prosecutor, Amanda, asked. I suspected for years, but had proof when Dan showed me the documents. I glanced at Dan, who sat in the corner with Pearl. But honestly, it started with Cooper. "The dog?" Amanda looked confused. "My mother's biggest mistake was selling him," I explained. "She'd gotten away with everything else because I always believed her excuses. That the life insurance policy change was Dad's choice. That the college fund went to better use. But Cooper..." I reached down to scratch his ears. Cooper was the line she shouldn't have crossed. A knock at the door interrupted us. Another prosecutor entered, looking excited. "William just finished his deposition," he announced. "You're going to want to hear this." William entered, looking exhausted but determined. "The offshore accounts weren't just for the charity fraud," he said without preamble. "Stephen was running a full Ponzi scheme through the cruise line. Your mother was his principal recruiter for investors." "Jesus," Pearl whispered. "There's more," William continued. "We found emails. Your mother didn't just sell Cooper to me. She was planning to use my connection to the cruise line to bring in bigger investors. She called it securing the family's future." My phone buzzed. A text from my mother's lawyer. "She's ready to talk. Full confession in exchange for consideration during sentencing." Amanda read the message over my shoulder. "This is good. With her testimony, we can bring down the entire network." "But why now?" Pearl asked. "Why is she suddenly willing to confess?" "Because she's lost control of the narrative," Dan said, "and control is everything to her." Another knock. This time it was Caden. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, "but you all need to see this." He held up his tablet, showing a live stream from the local news. My mother sat in an orange jumpsuit, makeup perfect despite her surroundings, speaking directly to the camera. "I admit to my mistakes," she was saying, "but everything I did was for my daughter, to secure her future, to give her opportunities. Yes, I sold her dog, a decision I deeply regret. But when you're a mother, you do whatever it takes to protect your child's interests. Turn it off," I said quietly. "She's trying to spin this into a story about maternal sacrifice," Amanda observed. "No," I stood up, Cooper rising with me. "She's trying to maintain control one last time, but I have something she doesn't." "What's that?" William asked. "The truth." I pulled out my phone and dialed my mother's lawyer. "Tell her I'll speak at her sentencing, but not to help her, to tell everyone exactly who she is." 2 weeks later, I stood in the courtroom, facing my mother. She'd traded her pearls for prison orange, but her eyes were as calculating as ever. "My mother taught me that image is everything," I began. "That perception matters more than reality. That love is conditional, based on what you can provide. She sold my dog, my best friend, not because she needed money, but because she needed to prove she could. That her control over my life was absolute." I took a deep breath, feeling Cooper press against my leg, Pearl's hand on my shoulder, Dan's supportive nod from the gallery. "But she was wrong about everything. Love isn't a transaction. Family isn't a business deal. And the truth always matters more than the story you tell about it." My mother's face remained impassive, but her hands trembled slightly. "I'm not here to ask for leniency," I continued. "I'm here to say that every choice has consequences. Every betrayal leaves a mark. And sometimes the biggest act of love is holding someone accountable for their actions." The judge leaned forward. "And what consequences do you believe appropriate, given your mother's cooperation?" I looked directly at my mother. "Whatever the court decides. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not responsible for managing her choices, or protecting her image, or believing her lies." As the bailiff led her away, my mother turned to me one last time. "I really did do it all for you," she said softly. "No, Mum, you did it for yourself, and now we both have to live with that truth." Outside the courthouse, Cooper bounded ahead as Pearl, Dan, William and Caden walked with me to the car. "You okay?" Pearl asked. I watched Cooper playing in the sunshine, free and happy. "Yeah," I said. "I really am." The morning newspaper sat untouched on my kitchen counter as Cooper and I shared our usual breakfast routine. Pearl let herself in, carrying coffee in her laptop. "Have you read it?" she asked, nodding toward the paper. "Not yet." I took a sip of the coffee she offered. "How bad is it?" 15 years, she said softly. "Stephen got 20. The headlines are calling it Justice Served." Cooper padded over, resting his head on my lap as I finally picked up the paper. My mother's booking photo stared back at me, her perfect posture unchanged by prison clothes. "She wrote you a letter," Pearl said, pulling an envelope from her bag. It came to my address. I turned the envelope over in my hands, recognising the precise handwriting. "Did you read it?" "Of course not." She paused. "Are you going to?" Before I could answer, my doorbell rang. William stood there with a familiar-looking folder. "The DA finished processing the offshore accounts," he said, walking in. "They found your father's life insurance money, all of it. They're releasing it back to you as the rightful beneficiary." I stared at the folder. "I don't want it." "What?" Pearl and William said in unison. "I want to donate it to the animal shelter where I found Cooper." I scratched behind Cooper's ears. "Maybe help other dogs find their real families?" William smiled. "I can help with that. Set up a proper foundation, make it official." "Speaking of official," Pearl interjected, "Caden called. The promotion board reviewed your case. They're worried about having a convicted fraudster's daughter handling client accounts." I finished. "Actually, no," she grinned. "They're impressed with your integrity. You're being promoted to senior analyst." My phone buzzed. A text from Dan. "Turn on the news. Now." We crowded around Pearl's laptop as she pulled up the local news station. Stephen was being led into court, but it was the headline that caught my attention. "Cruise Line CEO names additional conspirators in expanding fraud case." "He's turning on everyone," William said, "including your mother." "It doesn't matter," I replied, picking up her unopened letter. She's already lost everything that mattered to her, her reputation, her social standing, her control. I ripped the letter in half, then quarters, letting the pieces fall into the recycling bin. You don't want to know what she said? Pearl asked. I already know. It would be another manipulation, another attempt to rewrite history. I stood up, grabbing Cooper's leash. Want to come with us to the shelter? I think it's time to start turning this story into something good. At the shelter, the director couldn't believe the size of the donation. This will fund our medical care programme for years, she said, wiping away tears. I want to do more than just write a cheque, I told her. I want to volunteer, help other dogs find their forever homes. Like I found mine, a voice said behind us. It was William, holding a squirming puppy. Meet my new friend. The shelter staff helped me pick her out, Pearl laughed. Another golden retriever? Actually, William smiled. She's Cooper's sister from a new litter. The shelter just got them in. I thought, maybe it's time to make some better memories. Cooper sniffed the puppy carefully, then gave her a gentle lick. The puppy yipped happily, trying to wrestle with her big brother. See? Pearl nudged me. Family isn't always what we're born into. Sometimes it's what we choose. My phone buzzed one last time, another news alert. Michelle Lucas transferred to federal prison. I deleted it without reading further. You know what the best revenge is? I said, watching Cooper play with his sister. Living well, being happy, choosing love over control. Speaking of choices, William said, the shelter's having a fundraising event next month. Would you like to help organise it? Do it right this time. No fake valuations, I teased. No fraud, he promised. Just good people helping good causes. Count me in, Pearl declared. We'll show them how it's done. Cooper barked in agreement, making us all laugh. As we walked out of the shelter, the puppy's adoption papers signed and a volunteer schedule in hand, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. My mother had taught me that image was everything, but she was wrong. The truth was everything. And the truth was, I had finally found my real family, not in the perfect facade of my mother's world, but in the messy, authentic love of true friends, loyal dogs, and choices that made me proud. Ready to go home? Pearl asked. I looked at my unlikely family, Pearl, William, Cooper, and now a new puppy, and smiled. I already am home.